Morning, everybody. Oh, it's been a long week. Long week. For me, it's just getting started. Yep. Probably going to be a short one, about 2 hours today, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go ahead and get this stuff fired up. All right. Get rid of that. Oop, that wasn't what I wanted. That's what I wanted. All right, do this camera thing he turned up. There we go. Green. All right. Carly Boone says Antifa tossing game. I see what's going on here.
A fella in a pair of flexi cuffs and will likely be hauled off.
You see signs there in the crowd. They look, from my view, to be similar to each other. So it raises the question of, if this is, again, an organized protest, how many people here are actually students, if they're organized by an outside entity, as we've been seeing elsewhere across the country.
Yeah, I mean, the signs look to be professionally made, as we've seen in most campuses across the country. There have been reports of the dark money that is funding these protests. And while this does appear to be a fairly small group, it is an aggressive group, as witnessed by that one takedown. And we'll keep watching this to see whether or not, because this appears, is it on a city street or is that like an entrance to a?
It looks like it's a regular street with traffic trying to still get through. Yeah. And the police doing the best they can to keep traffic flowing and keep protesters out of the road, waving drivers through. And this would be Cambridge police and maybe campus police too. But I used to live in Cambridge and right down the road from there. So.
All right. Well, they're doing the best to keep the traffic flowing there and the protesters at bay.
Yeah. So this is MIT. It looks like it's hit every college pretty much. That's the thing. Is showing the extent of this rhetoric that's being taught to our kids. But again, looking at how many people don't belong to the college, how many outside influencers are there? All right, Echo X.
What do you know about UNDT Tether? Listen to Molly Elmore as she is dropping bombs about it.
In 2019, Tether got flipped. They were sued in the SDNY, the special district in New York, and it looks like they took a deal. And now Tether, for the last couple of years, has been used by the banking cartel to move money in and out of the United States outside of the legal framework. That's why Tether, no matter what they do, they can't get taken out. They can't get, they're never in trouble, really. It is fascinating why they seem to get this level of protection that no one else has. And nobody seems to work at Tether. There was a CEO who was never around, and the CTO, Paolo Ardino or something like that, has now assumed the CEO role. BitBoy even went down to the Bahamas. Oh, that's the other thing. They're offshore, and no one seems to care about that. They went down to the Bahamas, looked at the parking lot, and there was 2 parking spots, right? So this is a multi-billion-dollar fintech. I mean, think about how many people work at Ripple, hundreds and hundreds. But there's 3 or 4 people who work at Tether, and we don't really know much about them. It looks a lot like FTX in that it's a cover for something else, and the people who are really doing the work aren't disclosing that on their LinkedIn profile or whatnot. So Tether, I think we will find out the truth one day. I think they are protected until the time when a flip the switch black swan event happens. Tether gets taken out, crashes it, and then the Phoenix merges with the new payment system, right in line with problem reaction solution that they've had placed.
Ooh, mic drop. Make sure you're giving Molly a follow over on X. This is why it's so important to know what you hold. Let's go.
I told you I don't trust no crypto. I trust no crypto. None of that stuff. All right. Wall Street won't tell you too much, but the real streets will. The strippers now. Uh-oh.
I don't pay attention to many Wall Street and government stats and polls. It's all lies and it's all fabricated. But I do pay attention to real street economic indicators, and they're all getting pretty crazy. Biggest indicator of U.S. decline. You could buy 6 Big Macs with 1 hour of minimum wage in 1980. But today you can't even buy one, despite minimum wage more than doubling. That's inflation. Unpaid rent and low-income housing skyrocketed. Evictions may be next. And there's a few other street indicators, you could call them, that I pay attention to. One of them is the stripper index, which I think is a super, super good index, like a way of knowing if the economy is about to turn down massively. If you see the strippers make tons of money, that's like the boom time. That's the bubble. When that stops and the strippers aren't making any money at all, we're headed into like a massive, not just a recession, but depression. And it's already started with strippers.
We are going into a huge recession. Here's how I know. We just got our 1099s back. So I'm going to show you what a bad year at the Mustang Ranch looks like.
This is Dase. She's a sex worker working out in Nevada. She recently posted a video where she reported that her income dropped 64% this past year and makes the prediction that a huge recession is coming. You're probably asking yourself, why are we bringing this up on an investing channel? Well, it turns out sex workers might be surprisingly good at predicting market corrections. In 2022, Twitter user Botticelli Bimbo, yes, I just said that, correctly predicted the economic decline that we saw later that year. Economists have taken note of this phenomenon, and they've even dubbed this the stripper index.
So while everyone's got like their Wall Street Journal and their economists from the Rothschilds, and they're getting all their fake government numbers and like trying going, oh, I see inflation's down, the government's a consumer price index, which means nothing. It's all lies. I'm watching strippers, I'm watching Big Macs, and just people on like TikTok or X showing things they find, like this guy at a gas station.
You want to know how you can tell everybody going through it right now? Look, $10. $10. What does this one say? $20. $10. Look, what else we got? $15. Who else? $19. Hold on. Who else? What we got over here? $10.
$10 worth of gas. Like that will maybe drive you for like, what, 30 minutes? Like that's what most people can afford now. And they can't even afford food. It's, we're on the verge of something massive about to like just crash here.
The stripper index. Well, you know, what can you say, right? All right. Billboard Chris says the slippery slope is real. When gay rights were won, the focus of LGBTQ organizations turned into trans rights.
10 years ago, the idea that adults, schools and the media would combine to create an environment that actively encourages, not supports, but encourages children to be confused about their bodies at particularly vulnerable points in their life and to reject their bodies to the point that they want to surgically alter them, well, that was unthinkable. No one from any other point in human history would understand why so many people have been convinced that it's kind and essential to facilitate a medical industry that is profiting from disfiguring children. Now, you've called this a child abuse scandal and a medical crisis. Is it being led by children who genuinely have come to this decision on their own by and large, or is it more of a thing led by adults and perhaps the medical industry?
Yes, of course, this is led by adults. This is led by the media, the government, these TQ organizations. This is really something that took off really around 2010, around the time gay rights were won. And a lot of people said there would be this slippery slope, and they've been proven to be correct, because as soon as gay rights were won, the new focus came to making what is really a mental illness into a civil rights issue. And there's been hundreds of millions of dollars, billions for sure, actually, pumped behind this movement. But there's no such thing as a transgender child. It's all a lie. Nobody can even define what it means. And no child on their own would ever believe that they were born in the wrong body unless someone in society put that idea in their head in the first place.
Well, and the people who are, the environment that children are in these days, we were just showing some photographs there. Their classrooms are now full of activist flags about adult sexual concepts and gender identity. When I went to school, Chris, we didn't have that in our classrooms, and no one was having this as a topic of discussion. Now everyone has their own pronouns. Everyone is experimenting with their identity instead of trying to focus on their grades. Is that, do you think, leading to what is essentially a craze? I don't know if you remember, we had crazes at school when I was going. We all had yo-yos, and we all had elastics, we all had Furbies. Is this kind of like an identity craze?
This is 100% a craze. This is a social contagion primarily affecting girls. And I'm glad you brought up the pronouns, because a lot of people think they're just being kind when they go along with this pronoun game. But what really are they doing? When you call a girl he, him, you are sending her a message that there's something wrong with her, that she's supposed to be something she's not. That's not a message of self-acceptance. It's a message of self-hate. And now you have the whole school and all the kids and the teachers and the administrators all supporting this message that the child was born wrong. This we should never go along with, because this is harming kids and it's causing them to believe that the only way they're going to find true happiness is by going to the next step after the social transition of new names and pronouns. The next step is puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries, because they believe they're born in the wrong body, and that's the only way they're going to find true happiness. This is all, of course, a vicious, terrible, coercive lie.
Yeah, that's Billboard Chris. Yep. Outside the Matrix says priceless.
Did you hear about our basketball game?
No, what happened?
We lost again.
I'm sorry.
We lost to a Christian homeschool.
Okay, well,
all
any team
because they
can beat.
cheated.
They cheated.
Yes, they cheated.
How did they cheat?
They had Jesus on their team.
Okay, so
I can guard Joey all day, but you know who I can't guard?
Okay, I think
The
you
Lord.
need. Okay, at this point, you're.
Every time a player got hurt, he was fine the next play.
Well, that's a good thing.
I think
You-
Jesus was healing them.
Do you
I
understand
think
how
he was hiding under the bleachers, just laying his hands on them so they would be fine.
you really need to?
Their
Look,
cheerleaders over there like, we got school spirit. I'm like, yeah, you also have the Holy Spirit.
they had cheer.
Over there praying, the Lord is my shepherd. Yeah, he's also your shooting guard. So
You
I
seem
don't
really.
know what they were praying for.
Listen to
I'm
me.
assuming points because they scored 84 of them.
You're making excuses.
And then Joey was all like, we beat you. I'm like, you ain't beat us.
Well, you know, kids.
He
that-
beat us.
Actually, they
You know,
did.
Jesus may love all the little children of the world,
Derek,
but
listen
he
to me.
also loves the hoop.
You guys lost
And he's
because
good.
you're ridiculous.
Real good.
Listen to
God
me.
might have created the heavens and the earth on day one, but on day two, he shot some foul shots. I promise you that.
You
I
can't
mean,
be a sore.
Chad said he heard the coach say after the game, I want to thank God.
So that right there tells you that they were planning something sneaky with him.
Oh, kids today. Right. Yeah. All right. I got this story queued up here. Exclusive. James Ray Epps breaks federal law, lying to FBI agents again. In never before released leaked audio, You're the Boss, Part 3. Let's see if the audio is in here, because I'd rather just play that.
So, jump ahead a little bit. On the 8th, did you call the FBI's InTalk or the complaint?
I'm not sure if it was the 8th. Someone contacted me and said, hey, your picture's up.
Okay.
And so we checked into that, and sure enough, my picture was up. So I did call in. I'm not sure what the date was.
Okay.
But I called in, let them know that, hey, I'm here.
Oh, can you take my picture down?
Yeah, we had a chance to listen to that call. I just want to verify that it was actually you and not somebody pretending to be you. Okay. So on the 5th, during the call, you mentioned that you got a call at some point to go down to BLM Plaza or somewhere downtown
Okay,
DC.
yeah. My son and his friend were walking around. They found a Trump group, and they were chatting and stuff. And he called me, and he was quite concerned because there was some of them that were trying to antagonize the police department.
Some of who? Just some who was trying to attack?
Somebody in the group was trying to antagonize the police officers.
Okay. And you went down there to meet them?
I went down there.
While you were down there, what'd you do? Or what?
I tried to talk these guys out of it. I mean, I tried to talk them off the edge. I mean, they're trying to. I think I understand it a little bit better now, but I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to tell you that I don't think they were Trump supporters. I don't know if they were or not, but they were there to antagonize. They were raging,
Oh, wow. Good job, guys. Good job. That's what it's about. Guys, it's about the Constitution. It's not about anything else. Yeah, and keep your focus. And they're violating the Constitution. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're not. You're right. We're not. But the cops are. No, they just the Constitution. Constitution is what it's about. Not Antifa. They actually pulled Black Lives Matter. This is about the Constitution. It's more important in my life, your
Undercover
life,
agent type.
job.
Agent provocateur. Yeah, no joke. Yo, hold up. I got the Constitution.
Yeah, but when BLM and Antifa are burning down our cities and destroying our country, it doesn't matter right now. Yes, it does. That's breaking the Constitution. It does not matter right now. That's breaking the Constitution. You're losing focus. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. How? You don't know me. You're fighting with me. I'm not fighting with you. I'm just debating. You're wanting to beat somebody up. It's not worth it. When did I ever say that? I never said I want to beat anyone up. Okay. I'm not going to argue. I want to stand up for our rights. I agree with you. I agree with you. But tonight, you know what? What? You can bring shame on us. That's not what it's about. This is about the Constitution. We're here to defend the Constitution. Right, and what did our founding fathers do in 1776 over a tax on tea, which is much less than this bullshit, dude? Yeah, well, I'm just saying. Come on. We're far beyond that. If you're about... We're far beyond that. Oh, yeah. You know that. I know. In fact, tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested. Well, let's not say it. We need to go... I'll say it. All right. We need to go in...
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
...to the Capitol. Let's go! Based Fed posting? All right. We need to go into the Capitol. I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Hey, at the end of the day, y'all agree.
He was like, don't beat that guy up. But let's go into the Capitol. All right. Peacefully. Peacefully stroll. Peacefully. Yeah, okay.
So I paid for that since I was 15 years old.
Hey, it's all good.
I was trying to talk him down. I was trying to help people, trying to de-escalate it for the most part.
There's not a single time he tried to de-escalate anything when you can hear him.
No, and there's not a single time he's ever tried to help anybody either.
That's true. You can see him stand right there when Carolyn Edwards falls over. He's just standing there watching.
I know. And he ran past her. He runs past her, actually.
When you say we were raging, what were they actually? Do you remember what they were doing?
Getting in the police department's face, screaming, calling them all kinds of names.
Yeah. So Epps is.
What's doing, everybody? Today is Thursday, May 9th.
Oh, stop. So the games go on where Epps is concerned. Maybe he'll get charged. Maybe he won't. Turning Point UK, Dutch police give Antifa an absolute spanking at Amsterdam University. Play silly games, win silly prizes.
Cowards!
Yep. So it's not just here; it's everywhere. But the crazy thing is that we knew this was all coming, right? We were told there would be uprisings and that they'd be quelled quickly. Remember that? Remember reading that? Yeah. All right. Carla Boone says this case has jumped the shark.
Absent that, this trial has become a sham.
So do you think that exists? You said they had better be bringing that they say that they have.
No, I don't think it exists, which is why, again, I'm holding back my disdain for the full prosecution until I hear them rest. But this trial has jumped the shark officially. As troubling as it was to see Fonzie water skiing over sharks, it's equally, if not more troubling, to hear a porn star testify in a fraud trial about the leader of the free world in his boxers on a bed about to commit an extramarital affair. That has no place in a fraud trial.
Talk to me about Michael Cohen. Convicted, should be in prison, convicted liar. He's brought into this case. They're looking into him on Congress, on Capitol Hill, investigation there. There's so much swirling around this man, yet he gets no gag order. He's on TikTok, now says he wants to run for Congress and has the emoji cowboy hat on his head as he sang it last night. Your thoughts?
Number one, he's going to be eviscerated by the defense. I teach at the law school. It would take any one of my random students that I pick to go up and cross-examine him that would absolutely show that he's void of any credibility. But secondly, I think it's actually going to hurt the prosecution. After you call a porn star whose story jumped around when the defense cross-examined her and exposed her for what she was, you're going to get the same, if not worse, for Cohen, which is why I'm saying if they don't have something in the form of an audio tape or written in Trump's words to help prove fraud, then not only are they going to find a very quick not guilty, but they should be ashamed for bringing the case.
So what?
Puppies getting into everything. Sorry. All right. Mr. Freedom Stick says we don't need any press briefing on how the swamp is systematically destroying the sovereignty and the future of the great nation.
Here's the thing. These open borders are undermining the core principle of the rule of law. As we stand here looking across at the United States Supreme Court, we stand here in front of this building, the Capitol building. The rule of law is what sets our nation apart.
So you're saying the wrong shit to the wrong people. However good your efforts are, we don't need individuals like you coming down, getting in front of the cameras, standing on the doorsteps of your criminal headquarters, telling us how fucked we are. You should be turning around, walking back up those steps, and telling your brethren that this nation absolutely has had enough. Tell them they might want to pick up the Constitution and read it. This nation's at its breaking point, all because of this criminal organization in DC. We don't need you getting in front of a camera to tell us how your buddies are systematically deconstructing the United States as we know it from within, selling off our futures, our children's future, stealing our tax dollars and sending it off to everyone under the sun except for us. We don't need a briefing for any of that. Your corruption has you so disconnected from the people you're supposed to be serving.
Give me a second, guys. I'll be right with you. Hang on. Hang on. Just giving the dog some bones. Give me a second. I got more. There you go. Come on, take it so I can get back to the show. Easy, guys. All right. Sorry. Give me a minute here. Oh. I had to give the little pups a bone to stop them from chewing on wires. They're getting into everything. They're getting into everything. All right. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Going on. Shipwreck says, considering what just happened with the FBI and Trump's classified documents case, maybe we need to revisit Nixon and Watergate. Just saying.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got. And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of public life.
All right. Yeah, maybe he didn't do what they said. Yeah. You ever think of that? All right. Outside the Matrix says, first spaces with script, calling out corruption. The Truth Movement changed. We didn't. Let's take a listen.
So, I said to everybody I would do spaces, right? And I was talking earlier about like how everybody's like, I don't know. I feel like everybody forgot what we learned in 2020. 2020 was for us, all of us, to expose corruption, right, left. What's up, guys? What's up, Conan? We were supposed to expose corruption on the right and the left. We weren't supposed to like pick and choose who we did it to or who we exposed. And I feel like everybody like forgot that now. Like everybody's becoming gatekeepers in the whole movement. And it just kind of sucks because we really came a long way. All of us did. Even like I remember when I had a small ass account, I had like 100 people following me, and I was like, I'm gonna do a live, and I went live on Facebook, and it was like the weirdest thing. I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, okay, how am I gonna do this? And by the end of the time, I had 60 people hit me up. Yo, can you do that again? So we did it again, and I said, well, let's start digging down these some of these rabbit holes, and I would do these rabbit holes. They would go and research, and then they would give me stuff. And I'm like, this is awesome. Let's just follow the money. And that it's always been follow the money. So if all these people are safe, everybody that claims to be, I go by the ones that say they're for Donald Trump and, they're for President Trump. And there's a lot of them that haven't said, like they'll say good things in public and then they change it up and they're saying bad stuff. Like at this one podcast, they throw something off at the podcast and they say something that throws us off. And we're like, why the fuck did you say that? And there's only a couple of them. So, people be like, well, you're jumping to conclusion script. Why are you going at them? Well, I went down the rabbit hole. I followed the money. And once I followed the money, it don't look right. So then people would get mad about that. And I just don't understand like how everybody's like changed. It's always been the same rules. We follow the money, we go down the rabbit holes, and whatever we see, whatever we find, we expose it. So I don't know. It just, if you're doing this 5 years now, 4 years, 3 years, whatever it is, you get tired of this. So just seeing people go back to sleep and getting mad that you're calling people out or you're exposing stuff, that's like the worst thing to see in the truther movement, because the truth is not for Republican. It's not for Democrat. It's not for Israel. It's not for Germany. It's not, it's not for America. It's for the truth. The truth is the truth. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter how it got there, but the truth is the truth. So I think that's where people gotta like go back to, because everybody's so worried. Like I said before, like the main thing, I was like, remember when you guys were like telling people about the vaccines and trying to warn people about the vaccines, and they were getting triggered, and everybody was like, oh, you're a bunch of snowflakes, you can't take it, ha ha ha. Now we're doing that to them with their idols. I call them idols. They're TV stars or whoever it is. And we show them something and they're like, oh, they get triggered. I'm like, how are y'all getting triggered? How long you been in the movement for? Oh, I've been here for 5 years. Then how are you getting triggered by us going after somebody? If when we don't bash people, we're not attacking people, we're asking questions. Hey, why do you have this amount of money, this amount of money that was made from this? And you brought this money in, and the money that you brought in, you used it for your legal proceedings or whatever it was, and there was left over. You had money that was left over. Why didn't that go back to the people that donated? Why did you keep it? So, I mean, those are the things that get me like, I don't know. I get like thrown to the side where I don't even want to look at the movement no more, because that's what the movement was based on: truth and exposure, D-class, the children, all the people that were, once for the kids. Now they're all not for the kids. What happened? They don't talk about the children no more. We're not saving. There's not kids going missing every day. There's not people getting arrested on TV every day for being sick pedophiles. I mean, it's all out there. It's just like I feel like they're gatekeepers, and they're worried about losing their platforms, or they're worried about saying the wrong thing. And you can't, not with truth, you can't do that. So that's where I'm at. If y'all want to talk, everybody can talk. So all you gotta do is hit the mic. But yeah, that's where I've been for the past like 3 days, just like kind of like analyzing why everybody's getting mad. Like nobody should be getting mad. I shouldn't be. I would never get mad if somebody exposed something and they showed it to me and it was somebody I like Linwood. They would say things about Linwood, right? And I'd be like, okay. And they'd bring up the John Benet Ramsey case. I'm like, well, he's a defamation lawyer. Then they bring up Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm like, okay, so show me what you have. Show me the receipts. Let's go down it. And then I find videos where Linwood would address this, and Linwood went over all this stuff already. And I'm like, why are we going back? It's the same thing y'all do with Trump. You guys are bringing up the I forget her name, the 13-year-old, the supposed 13-year-old, that there was a case with Trump with the 13-year-old, but that case was withdrawn. They literally withdrew that case, saying that Trump and Epstein had raped her. The case was withdrawn. But the left constantly brings that up. It's like I swear, it's like their mantra that they have to push on us every time an election comes around. I'm like, okay, guys, we went past that. Yeah, Epstein went past that. He caught a trip from Newark, New Jersey down to Palm Beach, Florida. Like, we went through that, guys. He wasn't at Epstein Island. So I think at this point right now, I think everybody should be able to accept any truths, but we should have receipts. We can't just say, this one's a pedo, or this one's bad, or that one's this. Like, I won't do that. I'm not going to be like coming out and saying somebody's a pedo and nobody has fucking proof on it. Then there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to say something about somebody unless you actually have that receipt. Like Phil Galuski, we had the receipt, so we showed the receipts. And there were other people that showed the receipts. But that's like the prime example. Like, we didn't say somebody was a pedo or a groomer unless we were able to prove it. So when we say that, like Flynn, like if I bring up Flynn, people get like, oh my God, he's a general, he's an American hero, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, how much have you looked into everything? Have you looked into Pegasus? Well, what's Pegasus? All right, see? You didn't research. You should have looked at Pegasus. Pegasus is the spy software that they used on American people, to spy on American people. Another great movie that goes along with that is The Shadow Government by Millie Weaver. Tie that in. Take AJ, Alex Jones. Alex Jones was behind all that coming out. She got arrested or something. I think she broke her mother's phone, and AJ left her in there. And she got out, and she was like, yo, why'd you leave me in here? And that was on the premiere of her, her documentary coming out called Shadow Government. But they literally go over psychological operations in that whole entire, documentary. It's all about the psychological operations that they run on it. PSYOP. So, somebody that's in the Defense Intelligence Agency or in the military, they're privy to, Conan knows they're privy to all the psyops, man. So, there's a lot of military people there like, I don't know, bro. I like Flynn a little bit, but there's some things I don't like. So I try to just gather as much as I can and go over it. But then when I got to X, shit, man, there was probably, I'm going to say at least 20 people that were putting up receipts on Flynn and the whole network. And then the whole Circle of Jerks network came out. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. So, but that's where I'm at, guys. I mean, if you guys want to ask anything, that's another reason why I came on here. If anybody wanted to ask me questions, because I know we get crazy on X when I do the lives. I don't know why it won't let me see anybody's comments on the lives. It's pretty annoying. Let me make sure that you guys can. Let me make sure you guys can comment. Sound effects, captions, view captions. As long as the captions that have been.
That's a pretty good way to start off a live on there. But he's right. So many of the things that we've seen. I mean, therefore, I am says sometimes it's difficult to concentrate when people are cheering, calling for genocide of Jews right outside of the library you're studying in. They're waving flags.
I'm here at my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, to see firsthand what is happening with these anti-Israel terror encampments that are causing trouble on campuses all across the country. Can I ask you guys a couple questions?
Okay, can you just step back a little bit? I just felt like you got really close to me. Thank you.
Are you a student here?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Are you a student here?
You should talk to our media people.
Okay, where are they? Hi, can I speak to somebody from your media team because nobody else will talk to me?
No.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm here with Ben. He is a current student at Penn. Have you walked past and walked through the encampment?
I walk past. I mean, this is where I study. This is the biggest library on campus. It's final season. Every single seat is full, and unfortunately, we have to hear it inside.
How has it impacted your ability to study for finals and take your exams?
Just seeing some of the stuff that they're cheering, and sometimes it's difficult to concentrate when people are calling for the genocide of Jews right outside of the library you're trying to study in.
Y'all are talking about genocide or anything. Can y'all please bring this out?
He's a Penn student, and I'm a Penn alum. Do you go here?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to stay here. Thanks.
Okay.
How do you feel about what he just said about how they're not calling for the genocide of Jews when we clearly hear them call for Intifada revolution and From the River to the Sea, and those are both calls for genocide of the Jews?
So along with those two...
That's gaslighting, no?
Yes. I mean, along with those two cheers, which are obviously calling for the genocide of Jews, they're waving the flags of PFLP, which is responsible for the deaths of many Israelis and Jews. You have them praising Hamas, cheering Al-Qassam, make us proud. They're cheering and celebrating when we have videos of the October 7th massacre playing and women getting raped.
Do you have any message for the Penn administration or the mayor?
I just think the message is that Jewish students are not feeling safe right now. We feel alone. We feel isolated. As a student, I should be able to go on any ground I want without non-students telling me where and where to not go based on my ethnic identity and me wearing a Jewish star.
I couldn't agree more. As a Penn alum, this is disgusting. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. This is a pretty heartbreaking few hours here at Penn. I saw graduates trying to take their graduation picture, celebrating the most beautiful milestone of their life so far. And in the background of every photo was this encampment that's promoting hate, promoting terrorism. And, the administration, the police department, and the mayor are allowing this to happen. These campers are camping illegally on Penn's campus. And my thoughts and prayers are with the Jewish students here at Penn and on campuses all over the country. This should not be allowed to happen. We need our leaders to lead.
Can't argue with that. Kids should be able to, obviously, these kids are not taking the same courses that the protesters are, right? All right. Greg Kelly was the only one who stood up in President Trump when President Trump entered court. And yes, Stormy Daniels is a liar. Here we go.
Guys, welcome in and take it away. What are you hearing right now from Stormy on the stand?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bianca. Greg Kelly got a front row seat here for day 2 of the cross-examination here. Stormy Daniels, set the scene for us. What's it like in there?
Well, I wasn't quite in the front row. I was about 7 or 8 rows back, but still got to see everything. Look, I hate that this trial is happening, but that it's happening, I'm very glad. I saw what I saw today. Stormy Daniels was, I believe, destroyed on the stand. Look, lots of security. The security is excellent, I'm pleased to say. There was this minor incident caused by me. When President Trump walks into the courtroom, I naturally stood up. I was the only one to do that. You're not supposed to do that. I was quickly admonished by pretty much everybody to sit down, people in uniform, and that's fine. I mean, would be nice, but we're going to obviously adhere.
Kicked you out of there before things got going.
Touch and go for a while. But anyway, and then it becomes a trial, and that can be very tedious, you know? And so Stormy Daniels yesterday, apparently, or the day before, was a bit of a wreck, you know, talking too fast, all the salacious details, which truly were irrelevant. I think what happened today, Necklace tried to make it a financial thing for her.
Right.
I don't think she scored too many points, Trump's defense attorney, Necklace, President Trump's defense attorney, on that score. But as to the event, whether or not it actually happened in Lake Tahoe in 2006, I believe that Stormy Daniels revealed herself to be a complete and total liar. Nothing made sense. Nothing added up. There have been discrepancies. You know, she's told this story to a lot of people over the years.
Well, there was that In Touch interview from 2011, right, where a lot of this was discredited.
2011, and a lot of people have overlooked that interview, myself included. All right, we focus on the Anderson Cooper interview. We focus on Jimmy Kimmel. What happened in that In Touch interview is remarkable. I mean, one small point, but it's not really small. She's told 1 million people that Donald Trump did not get her dinner. They were supposed to have dinner. She tells In Touch that we had dinner. We talked over dinner. And a million other discrepancies. You know, the idea that a woman who's been in 150 adult films would be so flabbergasted to see a man in his T-shirt in a hotel room. It made no sense. And Necklace said that. Look, you've been around naked people, let's face it, your entire professional career. You're an assertive woman. You had just been kind of telling them who's boss.
Yeah.
And now the blood flows out of your brain. It made no sense whatsoever.
Made no sense. And she's going to be back here on the stand. They took a quick little break here. We're going to have some more testimony here on cross-examination from Trump's legal team this afternoon. We'll bring you the latest here on Newswire.
Hey, John, real quick, tell Greg I have a question. If you can relay it to me, because I don't think he has his earpiece in. You know, within the span of 24 hours, we have seen this case with no evidence really being presented. But ask Greg just to react to the fact that now Jack Smith's case on hold indefinitely, and it looks like Fani Willis will be investigated in 24 hours. The brakes have been pumped on all these cases.
Yeah, Greg. So I'm just relaying a question here on Bianca's behalf. She says, you know, we've seen a lot of wins here for the Trump legal team. Fani Willis's case there. We've also seen Jack Smith's case. There's some discrepancies what happened there. Maybe just talk about that a little bit and just how some of these cases are now starting to get put on the back burner. And we're seeing a lot of things getting the brakes being pumped here.
They are all blowing up in different ways. Their big plot to influence this election in a corrupt way, it looks like it's disintegrating. And I think that's awesome, because I know through my own research and through my awareness of life in general that these cases have no basis in fact. They are ludicrous. And I'm not saying that the system is working, but something is working, right? I mean, the system has brought us to this point. The system should have prevented this.
Right.
But here we are. And to see this case, I believe, falling apart. You never know about the jury, though. It's looking up for Trump. It's actually looking kind of spectacular.
Gary.
Yep. Everything comes out in the wash. You notice that video. It's 4 minutes and 20 seconds. 4:20. It's 4:20. Yep. 4:20. Yeah. All right. Moon landing.
Let me just start by saying this is for entertainment purposes only. Did y'all hear about that huge AI conference they had in Moscow at the end of last year? Well, they were experimenting with using Google's most advanced AI. It's called Neural Network, and it's basically a bunch of different AIs built into one, but it's able to test the authenticity of photos and videos to see if they're real or if they're deepfakes that have been made by AI. And Neural Network has apparently never been wrong about the authenticity of any image or video. It can tell you in 1 second of video whether it's a deepfake or not. So first they had it check what was captured captured during the unmanned Chinese moon landing a few years ago, and the AI said that was totally authentic. But then they had it test the Apollo moon landing footage, and Neural Network concluded that this footage was 100% without a shadow of a doubt fake or AI generated. And there was a whole list of reasons why. The background was fake, the foreground was fake, the footprints were off. It was even able to tell that in one of these clips, the astronaut was really a miniature figurine. They're probably not going to let this video stay up because they pretty much wiped this from every platform. I was trying to find the original clip from the conference translated into English, and I did end up finding it, but it was not easy. When I tried to search for it on IG, this is what happened. I cannot stand the Meta AI. There's plenty of articles about this happening agreeing that it's real, but of course it got fact-checked by Politico, and they say that it's false with really no explanation besides Google says they weren't there, which doesn't mean their AI wasn't used. I thought this excuse was hilarious though. About 15 years ago, NASA released restored copies of the Apollo 11 moonwalk after announcing years earlier that the original recordings were mistakenly erased and reused. It's not known whether the restored footage related to any inconsistencies the Russian report said were supposedly found. It's probably going to get this taken down, but I'm going to play you the clip anyway.
Почти все объекты на этом фото ей кажутся ненастоящими. В то же время вот фотография китайского лунохода у нее особенных вопросов не вызывает. А это то, что кажется не настоящим? Да, да, вот то, что красное. Это как бы гугловская, не наша. Так что не было предвзятости. Удивительно, но там точно вот она смотрит по очень много параметров, в том числе там, падение светотеней и так далее, и показывает, что инкорпорировано в фотографии.
Yep. NASA finally getting caught lying. By Russia of all places, right? Russia of all places. Yeah. Carly Boone put up, I'll just play it.
Omar facing a censure resolution for calling some Jewish students, quote, pro-genocide. Why the Republican who filed the resolution says Omar's remarks are dangerous. Omar facing a censure resolution for calling some Jewish students, quote, pro-genocide. Why the Republican who filed the resolution says Omar's remarks are dangerous. Omar facing a...
Yep. Well, here comes another censure. All right, Josh Hawley.
I guess my question is, Ms. Pacheco, and for anybody else on the panel too, shouldn't we be deporting these students? If we have undocumented students who are here unlawfully in the country, who are violating the law, let's just be clear here now. This is a violation of the law. And if they're also deliberately inciting persecution of a person on account of their race, which surely calling for the murder of Jews does that, shouldn't we be deporting them? Does anybody think we shouldn't be? Shouldn't we be deporting these students who are here unlawfully? Ms. Pacheco?
Senator, we expect a lot from our scholars, and the scholars and the students that I know love this country, respect this country, and want to and enrich not only the campuses, but also this country.
That's fantastic. And I hope and bet that none of the people that you sponsor are part of this. And I certainly hope that's the case. But I just wondered, is there anybody on the panel who thinks that we should not deport students who are here unlawfully, who are engaging in this activity, who are calling for the death of Jewish students, who are violating the laws of the United States? I mean, shouldn't we be deporting these people? Does anybody want to defend it and say, no, we shouldn't? They should absolutely be here. I think it's indefensible. The record reflects there's total silence from the panel. You know, I also think we ought to cancel the student visas. And I've called for this. For those who are here from other countries with a visa, I think if they're part of this, we ought to be canceling their visas.
Yep, and he's right. 100% right. Yep. Real Rob said, and here is Dominion Rigging System CEO and son of a bitch lied. All right, I got to make this bigger. All right, so this is from the Berry County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Zara Leaf, Congressman Jordan. Please be advised that Berry County Sheriff's Office has an open investigation for several years related to election law violations. My office recently received evidence related to this investigation that requires immediate review by Congress. I am attaching documents obtained directly from Dominion Voting Systems. These Dominion documents demonstrate Dominion CEO John Polis directed staff to conceal that Dominion has Serbian and Chinese employees operating out of its Canadian office, and that these employees are directly involved in the U.S. elections, not only with programming, but with real-time administrative remote access. Not only was access granted to U.S. election equipment in real time during the election, but detected by U.S. government through Albert sensors, was subverted by use of soft phones. This warrants investigation by Congress for a number of reasons. The emails revealed Dominion employees from Serbia monitoring vote tallies live and prior to certification in U.S. elections. Not only are they monitoring the vote tallies live, but they have access or remote access to U.S. election equipment. This further demonstrates numerous violations, including but not limited to perjury before Congress, NIST requirements, CISA requirements, DISA requirements, and breach of Dominion contract in many jurisdictions. Moreover, Dominion does not comply and provide transparency when requested by U.S. government. Ian Piper of Dominion stated on November 13, 2020, that the EAC was overstepping their bounds by asking for malfunction reports for all configurations, regardless of whether they are EAC certified system configuration or not. This concerning statement demonstrates that Congress needs to identify why the EAC has so little information and oversight over a vendor performing a government function. The Congress needs to obtain all malfunction reports, whether or not the equipment was certified. As it stands, the United States is gearing up for a federal election this fall, and there is no oversight of past malfunctions or how these malfunctions are allegedly fixed for future elections. Get away from that. Go on. Liberty. All right. I look forward to assisting Congress with its investigation to resolve these national security concerns.
When I was in the Senate in the Oversight Committee, Mike Pete Lucido, I got your message. When I was in the Senate in the Oversight Committee, we did Dominion. It was published, recorded, and it should be online. The president of Dominion testified, and so did his engineer or software maker. And the questions were centered around whether or not there was access to the internet on these machines that Dominion made. He said no, and it was a lie. When I was in the Senate in the Oversight Committee,
on election day in a precinct, are your machines hooked up to the internet?
No, not by any stretch. We go through a number of certifications, government certifications, and the first one is at a federal level. So those standards mandate that election systems, such as ours, are designed to work in a closed system, air-gapped, no internet.
On election day in a
Yeah. But hey, he won't get charged with perjury. Yeah. Pro-Hamas student activists could be sent to Gaza for 6 months under a new Republican bill. A new House bill would send any person charged and convicted with unlawful pro-Hamas activity on college campuses to Gaza, sentencing them to at least 6 months of community service work. Representative Andy Ogles, who introduced the bill, said students have abandoned their classes to harass other students and disrupt campus-wide activities, including university commencement ceremonies nationwide. Enough is enough. That's why I introduced legislation to send any person convicted of unlawful activity on the campus of an American university since October 7th, 2023, to Gaza to complete a minimum of 6 months of community service. Yeah, that's a good one. No. Okay? No. You lay down. All right. Joe Biden withholding military aid. Here's a good one.
Fox News alert. Joe Biden's currently withholding military aid to our ally Israel in the middle of a war against Hamas because of political pressure from radical students. Right now, Israel's on the cusp of going into Rafah in southern Gaza, the final battle of the war. Hamas is entrenched among the Palestinian civilian population, has nowhere else to go, and still refuses to return hostages or agree to a ceasefire. And just moments ago on CNN, Joe Biden threw the protesters a bone, declaring that Israel would never receive these American weapons if aid went into Rafah. Watch.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. It's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
The weapons Biden's withholding have already been approved by Congress and are precision munitions, exactly what Israel needs to launch smart strikes against Hamas targets with as little collateral damage as possible. This is exactly the opposite of what Biden declared Israel's mission should be, remember?
Do you believe that Hamas must be eliminated entirely?
Yes, I do.
It's now clear that President Joe Biden's withholding military aid from an ally to help win an election. It's the exact same thing Democrats accused Trump of doing and impeached him for.
Yeah. Just like the quid pro of them holding the $1 billion that was promised to them. Yep. All right. After World War II, the British government decided to randomly drop a nuclear bomb right next to 20,000 British soldiers just to see what would happen. What a sick and vile experiment.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We were told nothing. We knew nothing. We were told very little about the day, except don't look at the flesh.
Can you describe the day that the nuclear bomb was dropped?
And just before the sun comes up, we were marshaled in groups.
I went out on the aircraft carrier, the Warrior, and we was told to face the stern of the ship, the back of the ship.
We were told to cover our eyes with our hands or bury your eyes into the crook of your arm, which we did.
To say it was frightening is an understatement. I think it shocked us all into silence. When the flash hit you, you could see the x-rays of your hands through your closed eyes.
It was just sheer brilliant light. So I've never seen anything like it. Never had done. In the process of hands over your eyes, you saw every bone in your hand.
If I was looking at you now, I would see all your bones. You would see all the blood vessels and everything, and the bones a lot.
Then the heat hit you, and that was just as if somebody my size had actually caught fire and then walked through me. It was an experience that was absolutely unearthing. It was so strange.
Some of the lads would stand up, but about 30 odd seconds later, you'd get the blast, and the blast would knock you flying.
And there were guys with bruises and broken limbs. We couldn't believe it.
After a while, we were told that we could now stand and look up and watch the mushroom fall.
You caught sight of it at 90 degrees. It was that huge. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. It was there. It was practically above you.
All they saw was this rising fireball
colossal fireball just going up and thunder, lightning, you name it.
What I noticed was the clouds moving away like that, you know, round and round and round.
I think it was too much for some of them, and some of them were crying, asked for their mum. That was awful.
There was no comprehension that anything like that could even exist. It was immense.
It's a sight to see, but never want to see it again.
Over a 10-year test period, there were 22,500 personnel. In 2013, we estimated that 18,500 of us had died. And the reports that I'd seen, nobody had died practically of natural causes. They all died of leukemias and cancers and carcinomas of one sort or the other. And for a government to do that to its own people is absolutely disgraceful. It's outrageous.
Crazy, huh? Yeah. Things we don't know about. Yep. No. There you go. There you go, Leo. All right. Big dog's trying to take the little dog's bones. All right. Listen close. Trump gives multiple messages in this clip. If you know what's going on, future proofs past. Here we go.
For something, I haven't figured that one out. I don't even. Oh, they're trying me because I said something about the election. I think they want to say that. Well, first of all, that's an easy one to win because that was the most corrupt election. We have such proof of it. But they're trying me. And the jury comes from Washington, D.C. And I want to do a federal takeover of Washington, D.C. to stop the crime and to make it great again, to make it magnificent again. I used to do it in real estate very well, and this is just a large real estate deal. We want to make it gorgeous again. You look and you have graffiti on those beautiful marble columns, and you have tents all over the place. You have tents, and the homeless, we got to take care of the homeless. But for something, I haven't figured that one out. I don't even. Oh, they're trying me.
Yep. So, all right. Laura Loomer, Jihadi Joe. That's what President Trump should start calling Joe Biden instead of Crooked Joe Biden. Jihadi Joe and Barack Hussein Obama, enemies of America. Donald J. Trump says Crooked Joe, whether he knows it or not, just said he will withhold weapons from Israel as they fight to eradicate Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Hamas murdered thousands of innocent civilians, including babies, and are still holding American hostages. If the hostages are still alive, yet Crooked Joe is taking the side of these terrorists, just like he has sided with the radical mobs taking over our college campuses because his donors are funding them. Yeah. Gateway Pundit put out an article, Judge Arthur Engoron under investigation for alleged improper advice before finding Trump $454,000. This is the article on that. I'm not going to read it, but I'll drop the link. There you go. Okay. Let's see here. Outside the Matrix. Linwood posted some of his dog comms last night. Do your due diligence here if you haven't already. I would rather have an uncomfortable truth than follow a false prophet. Now, these two, I agree. This one, I agree. This guy here, I don't think so. He's been too accurate about too many things. And these two here as well. I don't trust either one of them. Beware of false prophets. I'm not a prophet. You are not a prophet. We are not prophets. Focus on the mission. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Focus on the mission. All right. All right. Wall Street Babes. What is it that U.S. regulations agencies actually do?
Remember when Tyson laid off all the American workers and said they're going to hire thousands of migrants and we all started to say we're going to boycott them? Well, I think I found another reason to boycott them. Tyson Foods dumps millions of pounds of toxic pollutants into U.S. rivers and lakes. They have been doing this for the last 5 years, threatening critical ecosystems and endangering wildlife and human health. And these are the pollutants they let out into the waterways by their 41 slaughterhouses between 2018 and 2022. According to research, the contaminants were dispersed in 87 billion gallons of wastewater, which also contains blood, bacteria, and animal feces, and released directly into streams, rivers, lakes, and wetlands relied on for drinking water. And the amount of wastewater they produce could fill 3.25 Olympic-sized pools every single hour. So these big corporations just find new ways to poison us every single day. Remember?
Yep. Tyson. Yep. Another history lesson that was never taught in school, and I wonder why.
You guys want to know the answer to this question? I guarantee it is not what you were taught in school, and it is certainly never brought up in the mainstream media today.
Okay, what was the first modern terrorist attack in the Middle East? The concept of modern terrorism is somewhat subjective, but one of the earliest incidences that might be considered a modern terrorist attack in the Middle East is the bombing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem in 1946. This attack was carried out by the Irgun Zionist paramilitary group on July 22nd, 1946. The group detonated bombs in the southern wing of the hotel, which housed the British administrative headquarters for Palestine. The attack resulted in 91 deaths and numerous injuries. The King David Hotel bombing is often cited as a significant event in the history of terrorism because it targeted a government installation and involved substantial civilian casualties aiming to influence politics. Political circumstances.
The concept of modern terrorism is somewhat subjective, but one of the earliest incidents that might be considered a modern terrorist attack in the Middle East is the bombing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem in 1946. This attack was carried out by the Irgun, a Zionist paramilitary group. Zionist? It's not some Islamic fundamentalist group? On July 22nd, 1946, the group detonated bombs in the southern wing of the hotel, which housed the British administrative headquarters for Palestine. The attack resulted in 91 deaths and numerous injuries. The King David Hotel bombing is often cited as a significant event in the history of terrorism because it targeted a government installation and involved substantial civilian casualties, aiming to influence political circumstances through violence. This attack is an early example of the kind of tactics that would become common in later terrorist activities. Here's what the newspapers said at the time. Zionist terrorists say they set bomb, denounced British. Irgun Zvi Leumi, an extremist Zionist organization, announced that it had been responsible for the bombing of the British headquarters here in a communique issued tonight in Tel Aviv, but blamed the British tyrants themselves for the loss of life. Funny how the freedom-fighting narrative is applied rather inconsistently. Haaretz wrote that this was a serious terror attack, a malicious one that stained not only the walls of the adjacent YMCA building with blood, bodies were hurled that far, but stained our entire country. The main motive of the bombing was to destroy documents incriminating the Jewish Agency in attacks against the British. What is the Jewish Agency? Well, it is formerly known as the Jewish Agency of Palestine. It is the largest Jewish nonprofit organization in the world. It was established in 1929 as the operative branch of the World Zionist Organization. Of course, the World Zionist Organization is the group that spearheaded the founding of Israel. Now we get to the modern Israeli perspective. At the events to mark the 60th anniversary of the attack, Benjamin Netanyahu, then chairman of Likud and the leader of the opposition in the Knesset, opined that the bombing was a legitimate act with a military target, distinguishing it from an act of terror intended to harm civilians. Yeah, history repeats, doesn't it?
Yep, it does. Libs of TikTok. 2 kids were expelled from their private California school, had their names dragged through the mud, and were vilified and defamed after they used a dark green acne cream. The school claimed it was blackface. The jury just awarded each of them $500,000. Justice is served. Yeah. This week alone, I have personally been assaulted by Antifa, witnessed numerous attacks on UW students, and watched Jewish students heckled and prevented from walking into the quad. But still no plan to clear the massive Hamas encampment on campus.
The student in Portland, at least 15 squad cars were torched. Look at that. An anarchist group took credit for the attack, said they did it in honor of the student protesters. At the University of Washington, Black Bloc Antifa descended on an event hosted by Turning Point. Fraternity brothers were the first line of defense, challenging Al-Qaeda Antifa to a push-up contest.
They're challenging Antifa to a push-up contest. This is unbelievable. Wow. I never thought I'd see this. Antifa is being challenged by frat boys to do push-ups.
It's about ideas. I'm built like this, and you're built like this.
I don't know, brother. I bench 225. You bench, I don't know.
They're challenging Antifa.
Antifa didn't drop and give them 50. Instead, they chose violence.
Wow. Absolute melee. Gabriel Jones throwing punches. Gabriel Jones throwing punches. Wow. Guys, ceasefire. Wow.
Guys.
Wow. Wow. This is untenable.
Investigative journalist Jonathan Cho is on the scene. Antifa didn't like that. They put his home address on signs so everybody would know where he sleeps.
This is, don't trip there, girlfriend. Don't trip. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, look at this. Look at the shield. You've allowed the Looney Tunes to take over this entire campus.
Your address on it.
I know. This has my address on it. Hey, look at my address. This is out of control. They're trying to dox me.
But they didn't have to wait for Cho to get home. The agitators attacked him and his crew the second they got a chance.
Okay, now we got a real fight.
You ready?
Hey, get that on the phone, Johnny. Come on.
We should call the cops. Fellas, right there, you have outside agitators like Antifa who are 40 years old, losers with no jobs. Go back to Reddit.
Jonathan Cho is an investigative journalist and TPUSA Frontlines reporter who joins me now. Just out of the blue, did you hear anything from the American Association of Journalists taking your side, saying this has been an unfair and violent attack on freedom of the press?
Yeah, Jesse, I wish. It's been radio silent. You know, aside from, again, my supporters with TPUSA and others on campus, I'm pretty much on my own. And again, as you saw, if we didn't have those courageous security guards with us, it would have been a far different outcome.
How many guys were there in that Antifa block?
Look, here's how it all started. I pretty much was in the quad yesterday, getting B-roll video, and then I happened to stumble across one of the tents that said, "Death to Fascists." There was a big sign there. I started recording. Then I started to see 1, 5, 10, 15, 20 guys all blacked up, wearing black armor. They started following me. We started recording. We were trying to leave. That's when the melee broke loose. This situation is untenable and out of control. Antifa, the far-left activists, the professional agitators have infiltrated a U.S. campus, in this case, the University of Washington in Seattle.
So they have all sorts of padding and helmets. Do they have weapons? It looks like they're wielding the umbrellas as a weapon.
They have umbrellas. They carry bear mace. I have no doubt they have knives. Thank God we didn't see anything like that being pulled out. But again, this is how they play, all as a mob. They don't go one-on-one at us. They send 10, 20 guys at us at once, and we're totally outnumbered 3-1. It's my 2 security guards. I'm on my own. Look, I was not instigating at all. I was just simply defending myself and had to take off as usual.
What is it about Antifa that they don't want to show their face?
That's a great question. I mean, again, these are not students. The vast majority of the folks now in the quad at the University of Washington campus are older folks in their 40s, maybe mid 40s. These are professionals, so they don't want to show their faces. They probably have, jobs at the local grocery store, gas station, or even Starbucks. I have no idea. But again, these are also some of the folks that I did recognize who didn't have masks on. These were the folks I saw 4 years ago during the height of the BLM riots in 2020. The same agitators are now here on the quad.
Right. And every time they are unmasked, not to be mean, it's just not the most delightful booking photo that I've seen, to put it mildly. I'm glad you're okay. You're the one that needs self-defense training. You see all of them out there in the quad learning. I mean, this is, you didn't expect this when you went into journalism, did you?
Yeah, look, let's just say I've cracked a few skulls in my day, so I'm going to be just fine there. But this is absolutely scary stuff. I didn't realize that after 20 years in American journalism that I'd be, doing hand-to-hand combat with these idiots in black bloc.
No, they're a bunch of animals. Do you think this is getting better or worse?
This is getting worse. And at the end of the day, the headline here is the UW leadership and administration failing to protect students and people walking through this public space. If they're afraid to take action, then the Governor Jay Inslee, needs to come out here, call in the National Guard, and clear this place out. It is a woke cesspool now infected with Antifa scum.
Yeah. You cannot have people that don't go to the school, 40 years old, dressed in all black in riot gear with face masks and weapons, pitching tents and assaulting people on campus and not do anything about it. That is absolute insanity. Jonathan, I'm glad you're okay. Just keep getting this great video. It's brave and it's important.
Yep. Yeah. New York City. Women are getting snagged from behind with a belt, dragged across the sidewalk. Meanwhile, the city is using all its resources to arrest Donald Trump.
He goes, what? What? Tiene pantalones blancos. He don't got no hat on, right? Arrastrándola. Dragging her down the block. Carajo, será este cabrón, uy. Looking down and looking up. He making sure she's knocked out, you heard? And she had just passed out. La mujer passed out, you know that, right?
Yeah, she passed out.
She just passed out, yeah. Puerco.
We're looking at a surveillance camera's footage. If you looked at it at the beginning of it, it had fast forward, rewind, all that. They're playing footage that was recorded.
Taking the belt out of the neck. If they see this guy, he would be dead.
Yeah. So if you go back to here, you'll see, it's got the playback there. See it down there? Because I don't want you thinking that these guys who are watching this camera footage were watching it live. Okay. They weren't. Okay. They hit the play button and watched it to see what happened. Okay. So don't think ill of the two men that were exposing the video. Think ill of the individual who did the deed. Senator Rick Scott will be at the courthouse today to support his friend Donald Trump.
Stormy Daniels is going to come in again, and when she sits down, she'll be able to look out at the people in the courtroom, and you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Why?
Look, I support my friend. I support Donald Trump. This is just political persecution. It's a crime to use the courts for political persecution. And by the way, I saw this. It happened to me. I fought Hillary Care, and guess what happened when I fought Hillary Care? Justice came after me and attacked me and my company. So think about this. If we don't stop this, all right? If we don't stop this, they can go after you. Every American's at risk. So I'm going to go support this president because this is wrong what's happening to this guy. He is just being politically persecuted. What they find him for where no one lost any money. Now they're trying to put him in jail over an accounting dispute. This is wrong.
We keep hearing so many people involved in this court case. They're giving money. On the other side, they're giving money to Joe Biden and his campaign and have been donors. And this is the latest. The wife of the ex-top Biden DOJ official, the one that's prosecuting Trump, the top prosecutor, has donated, thousands to Biden and Obama. She donated $2,800 to Biden's campaign in 2020.
Right. But first off, the lead prosecutor is the number 3 guy in Biden's Justice Department. Then he goes there to prosecute Trump. I mean, but they're all Democrat donors. This is just political persecution, and this has got to stop.
And by the way, for him to leave that job, people have told me in the legal profession, it's like going from the major leagues first place team to a AA team. Why would you do that unless you wanted just to take out Trump? It makes no sense. I just want to talk about in the big picture. You see the Georgia case. You see Fonnie Willis is going to have an ethics violation. They're going to delay there. You see Eileen Cannon says we have so many problems and so many appeals. We're going to have to delay past May 20th, and there's no sense that that's going to get started. And with the documents case, with the January 6th case, we're waiting to see about immunity and what actually they can put in and what he's going to be tried for. Do you believe, from what you know, this thing is going to be delayed till after November? Is this the only case you think?
I hope so. I mean, this thing. These are just the Democrats and Biden just trying to say, "Hey, this is my opponent. Trump's my opponent. I'm going to get him. I'm going to put him in jail. I'm going to get him at hell. I'm going to do a gag order so he can't talk. Oh, I'm going to make sure he can't be on the campaign trail." This is going on in the United States of America, not in Nicaragua.
So what does the rest of the world think? You travel around. What are they seeing?
First off, they think Biden's a joke. And they think, what has happened to your country? First off, the college campuses, I've talked to a lot of my friends around the world. They say, what is going on? You guys got these protesters in your own country saying they support Hamas? I mean, this is crazy.
What are you talking about? Joe Biden's a joke. He was on CNN last night and he said our economy is on fire, Senator. We're doing great.
Do you know how many people working age in this country are not working? 100 million.
Of course.
I mean, all we're adding is part-time jobs. We're losing full-time jobs. And inflation, if you're like, I grew up in a poor family, and you go to a poor family, grocery prices are up 40%, gas is up 50%, rent's up probably 25 or 30. These people are having a very difficult time succeeding.
Senator, you're in Florida where a lot of people are struggling to pay their electricity bill. They've got to decide, am I going to make my house payment? Am I going to make my medical payment? I'm going to turn off the air conditioner.
Yeah, but we're losing full-time jobs. We have fewer people in the workforce, and we're all adding this part-time jobs. That's Bidenomics.
What did you think when, in the interview last night? 2 things really stood out to me. He said inflation was 9% when he came into office.
Lie.
That is a lie. It was 1.4%. It went up to 9% in June of 2022, a year and a half into his presidency. Then he also said that Trump has never succeeded in creating jobs. Not only the Trump organization, but he was also president for 4 years and created jobs.
Right. Think about it. When Trump left office, the border was secure, the economy was great, and we weren't at war. Just in 3 years and 5 months, what's happened? Where inflation's out of control. They can't control it. All right. The border's wide open, and now we've got all these wars.
You're running for 6 more years in the Senate. How much harder is your job, being that it's now 6 weeks abortion, and that's going to be a referendum in Florida, and it makes it so much harder for Republicans. It doesn't care if you're pro-life or pro-choice.
No, the number one issue in my state is the border. Number 2 is inflation. But the Democrats, all they're talking about, all they're going to run on is abortion. That's all it is.
Senator, thank you very much for dropping by before you go to court.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Senator Tim Scott. I mean, therefore I am. I stopped going to the movies, concerts, and watching TV years ago when celebrities were telling me what to think and do. I'm glad the rest of the country is finally waking up to the fact that we the people have the power, not the elites.
On these platforms, we invest so much time, effort, and emotional energy into people who do not give a fuck about us. Seriously, think about it. Selena Gomez don't give a shit about you. You may care so much about her life, you may care so much about the art she creates, but she will never care about you. And none of these celebrities give a fuck about us. Think of this as you claiming your freedom of your life and your energy that you will no longer be spending to people that will never give any thought about you. And now you can invest all of that energy into people in your life, people that actually care about you. Invest it in your friends and your family. It's social media, after all. Why not use it for the people that we actually socialize with and interact with on a daily basis? Why give it to a celebrity that does not even care? That's just using your engagement to make money. What? This is social media. This is for us, not for them. I remember when Instagram dropped, when Facebook dropped, MySpace, Bebo dropped. This was ways for us to interact with people in our community, with our friends, with our family members. And instead, these have become platforms that are only being used to indulge in celebrity worship. These platforms have eroded from places that build community into places that uplift the same oppressive forces that keep us down. These apps are tools for us to connect with people. Why should we use our time to connect with people that have no interest in connecting with us?
Good point. Good point. Yep. All right. Queens neighborhood housing over 1,000 illegal migrant men in tent shelter. Here we go.
From all Queens, New York, standing outside a migrant shelter that is for men. This is a huge encampment back here, housing over 1,000 men from all over the world. Most of these men that you're seeing right here are from Africa and Venezuela. I want to show you right across the street from me is a baseball field. There's an elementary right there, a YMCA down the street right there, and beyond these tents is a senior citizen center. This is built in a neighborhood. All of these men here, right here, they need work. They want work permits so they can work. They entered into America illegally. Therefore, they cannot work. And they're put in a neighborhood in Queens, New York. Could you imagine if this happened in your neighborhood? How would you feel? There were protests in the streets when this all came, but those protesters, nothing happened because this was still built here. The city is taking care of these men because this is a sanctuary city. And this is what is happening. Another result, having these open borders, all of these people have came. All they can do all day long is just sit and wait and hope that they get a work permit someday. And this insanity needs to stop.
Yep, she's right. It's insanity. It needs to stop. All right. I'm not even going to go into that one. All right, here we go. Looks like Crossfire Hurricane 2 is in the works.
In session, in front of this very committee in an open session, your predecessor, Jim Comey, testified that he did not follow the proper protocol regarding the notification of Congress of the opening of the Crossfire Hurricane. That will be the counterintelligence investigation into President Trump in 2016. To address this illegal abuse of power by the FBI, this committee included direction to the FBI in the IAA requiring notification to congressional leadership of any counter-intel investigation into a federal candidate for office. Is there any counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
I would just say I will refer you to the special counsel has.
That's not a question about the special counsel.
Right.
That's a requirement in the IAA of the FBI. Is there a counterintelligence investigation into either Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
There's no investigation that I could confirm here. No.
Is there a counterintelligence investigation?
Again, I'm not confirming any investigation into either candidate.
Are you aware that you're required by the IAA to notify Congress of any counterintelligence investigation?
And we will comply with the law.
Have you already complied with the law? Has there been a notification?
I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
You believe you have been, or has there been a notification to Congress of any counterintelligence investigation of a federal candidate?
I believe we have complied with the law.
Has there been a counter-intel assessment conducted on either President Biden or President Trump?
Again, there's no assessment that I would confirm here in any way. I believe we have been in compliance with the law.
How about on an immediate family member, and by that I mean spouses or children of either President Biden or President Trump?
Again, I'm not in the business of confirming, especially not in open hearings, assessments or anything like that when it comes to counterintelligence matters.
So you will confirm in the classified setting when we ask you this question of whether there's a counterintelligence investigation, because you are aware that according to the IAA, you are required by law to notify Congress of any counterintelligence investigation, not just for presidential candidates, but any federal candidate.
We will comply with the law.
So you will answer this in the classified hearing later today?
We'll comply with the law.
And what's your understanding of the law?
There's a whole series of oversight requirements that we have related to counterintelligence matters. I'm not going to try to go
But
through all of
specifically
them
the
here.
notification of Congress of a counterintel investigation onto a federal candidate. What is your understanding of the law?
Again, I would want to refer to the lawyers to make sure that I'm appropriately complying with it, but I can tell you we're going to comply with the law, and my understanding is we have been.
Is your assessment that you're required to notify Congress of any counterintel investigation into any federal candidate?
I'm going to defer to the lawyers as to the precision of that.
You're the director of the FBI. They report to you. What is your understanding of the requirement in the IAA?
We're going to comply with the law, including whatever's in the IAA.
In front of this.
Yeah. So, in other words, yeah. All right. Texas says, yep, I cried. This is a story of a man with dementia who can't figure out things out on a flight and doesn't even recognize his wife, but she orchestrates the singing of You Are My Sunshine by the other passengers to bring him back.
Gotta watch this.
Hey guys, go away! Hey, get off my husband! Wait a minute, hold up! Yes. Oh my God. Honey, we have to. What happened? What's going on? You are my sunshine. What? Go away! What are you looking at? Sit down! Why are you being? Sit down! Hey, so who are you? Stop pushing me. What are you looking at? No, I see you be fucking away from me. Go away. I'm not going to stop. What is with the people? He has to miss you. I need you guys to help him calm down. Just help me sing. What do we do? Just let me sing. Don't point at me. Don't you point at me. Really? Sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. You don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So don't take my...
When I first seen this video, I had to pause because I was bawling like a baby, because you never know what people are going through. We get older, there's so many things that can happen to us, and we need to understand before we react. It's like everybody was getting upset with this man not knowing he had an issue, but his wife, his love, knew what to do. She needed everyone to stop and follow her lead, because she knew exactly what her husband needed at that moment to calm him down. And that's the importance of family. That's the importance of staying with your spouse. This is why it's good to find that person or persons and stick with them. For one day you will be old.
Yep. One day you will be old. Carmen says it's all lies. Once you understand that, then the rest falls into place.
So today we're going to talk about a documentary that I just watched, which I think everybody should see. So it started off with the root cause of Pearl Harbor. Then it goes into a part that I didn't know. Then we think of all the people who opposed the Federal Reserve and what happened with them. Then it goes into this report which debunks everything that happened in Auschwitz.
That these facilities never in fact contained hydrogen cyanide gas.
Then we have this fellow, David Cole, in his 1992 documentary, which talks about how these holes were put in after the war.
Are those the original holes in the ceiling? No. They've been rebuilt?
Yes.
Okay. After the war?
After the war.
It's interesting. But someone could say they use Zyklon B. Zyklon B was a bug spray used in World War II in work camps to kill lice in clothing to combat disease. Then it gets weird when you find out there was a soccer team, a piano, a movie theater, and much more all at this camp. Then we have stuff like this, which it says don't question anything, which is kind of like 2020. And lastly, I'm going to leave it with some testimonials. Listen to this.
They're organized very well.
And this one too. These are survivors.
We had a piano put into not just a piano, a grand piano was brought into block 1. Once that was built, that new block, the downstairs room was assigned for theater.
They said they're going to build a movie in the camp. And the president said, only you must be crazy. They're going to make a movie for us.
That's quite an interesting quote. A lie told often enough becomes the truth. Lenin.
Yep. We will find out more and more and more as time goes by. Joe Rambo says, are we paying attention? Trump told us we have so much proof of it. 2020 is being exposed. This is just the beginning. A sting operation must be exposed, and Trump has been telling us the whole time.
And that, Heather and Steve, are tally sheets that were the auditors for the Georgia audit that was conducted on November and 14th and 15th in Fulton County. They filled these out as they counted the ballots. And typically you would see 37 to 43, 61 to 48, something like that. But here we have tally sheets that are 100 to nothing for ballots. So somebody filled this out. But it's not just one of these. We have 7 of these, and we're going to kind of scroll through and show you these live. There's another one, 100 to nothing. The actual counts of these are like 5942 in terms of ballot images. Here's one that's 150 to nothing.
Yeah, so basically the people that were doing the audit would count the batches and then write in fraudulent numbers because they have the corresponding images for these batches and they do not match these sheets. So whoever was doing them commit fraud. And what I had asked him in the press conference is, are these sheets signed by the person that's doing them? And apparently they are, Steve. And not only that, the Secretary of State has the information. These sheets that they got, it's redacted. So they can't determine who was doing this, but we know that whoever did commit fraud. Now I want to switch over to the images of the ballots, right? These ballot images that they obtained through their lawsuit that are the official images from the Dominion machines, 2 different ballots right here, right? This is the ballot number, the batch or the ballot number here, different from here, but as you can see, it's the exact same markings, Steve, on each one. And Garland, tell me, how many of these did you guys find?
Well, there are a total of duplicate reporting of over 4,000. We're still looking at to find out how many of these are duplicate scanned.
This spreadsheet behind here has about 40,000 line items, right? That compares the numbers from the original election to the recount. The error rate on that, they said, was 59.5%. Let that sink in.
Yeah, actually 59.
Okay, hang over.
7 to be exact.
Yeah, interesting. And more will come. Absolutely. Wake up. You better have a plan because they sure as hell do.
I'm sick and tired of saying this. I really am. What's it going to take? You think by voting somebody in the office right now, that's going to fix everything? You think the military is going to come save you? Military right now is woke and broke. They are combat ineffective, been cannibalized, destroyed by this global operation. Globalists own your corrupt politicians that are basically siphoning off our futures right now. This is the systematic deconstruction of the United States as we know it. And you're sitting back. You're sitting back because you think it's somebody else's job to ensure your safety, your security. Let me ask you a bigger question. If shit drops out tomorrow, how long do you think it's really going to take for law enforcement officers, doctors, firefighters, medical professionals to stop showing up for duty? You think they're going to risk their families' lives, leave them at home, jeopardize everything that they have in their world, everything that they love to come save you? This shit drops out? Where do you think we're heading? You think these globalist fucks that are like dumping poison on you, locked you down for the last couple of years, tried to force inject bullshit into you, just got to let off now? You have no idea. Better have a plan. You better be ready to fight for your freedoms here real soon.
And most of us are. Ian Miles Strong says, reminder that Trump was impeached for withholding weapons from Ukraine for political gain. Same way Biden isn't being impeached despite doing the exact same with Israel. The double standard is undeniable.
Republicans in Congress are going to be livid about this issue
because
right
they
here.
think they have a good issue.
Well,
Scott,
no.
I get it. I think they think that
No.
he's the president of the United States. They're just politicians trying to take advantage of a situation.
Well, no, I think
get that.
I think they support our ally, and maybe he doesn't. They're going to recall a time when we impeached the president of the United States for withholding military aid authorized by Congress from Ukraine, $400 million. That was the basis of the impeachment. This is congressionally authorized military aid to our ally, and he is withholding it for political reasons.
The basis, so wait 1 second. I'm sorry, it's your
That's okay,
show.
go.
The basis of that impeachment was that the president of the United States called the president of Ukraine, and he said, I want you to do me a favor and open an investigation on the person who I think may be my opponent in the next election. That was the basis.
And he wants Israel to stand down on Rafah because his base is mad at him. It's a political reason.
Scott, the analogy just doesn't hold.
Yeah. Funny how these news people try to maintain their narrative no matter what the cost, right? Yeah. Live to TikTok. This is Seattle City Council candidate Tariq Youssef. He has just been identified as one of the individuals in the mob who attacked journalist Jonathan Cho at University of Washington yesterday. After the mob attacked Jonathan, Tariq claimed he was the real victim. Yeah. All right. So here we go. Shipwreck.
So it was all fake? It was all staged? All of it? All of it? Pictures, the documents that the FBI raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago home to get at was all staged? Down to the leaked photo to the New York Times? Trump had his classified documents case, yesterday or the day before. They're sitting there, and then Jack Smith, he's all like, look at these documents and look what we found. And Trump's lawyers were like, hey, those don't match what we have. And then Jack Smith is like, hey, we're not going to talk about that. Trump's lawyer's like, yeah, we are going to talk about that. That does not match what we had in the archives. Judge Cannon's like, hold the fuck up. And Jack Smith's like, I don't know how this happened. There was a mix up and some miscommunication somewhere. And Trump's lawyers were like, how do you mix up printing off and placing classified sheets on top of just regular everyday documents? Smith is like, I have to go to the bathroom because I'm pretty sure I'm shitting my pants. The judge was like, okay, that's enough. I'm going to go ahead and suspend this case indefinitely. And then the media is like,
disappointed by Aileen Cannon and her execution of the role of federal jurist here.
There's no excuse for what this judge has done. I do think it's a mix of incompetence and bias.
You have the most important case, and it's with a judge who's going to make sure it never sees the light of
because the evidence was manufactured by the FBI. This just gets better. So this all breaks. The FBI is corrupt. We've all known it, right? Trump sends out, hey, you know what? I know that you guys are large pieces of shit, but we're going to give you your new building, right? Congress already approved the funding for a new FBI building. It's like, I'm going to give you your building, even though you're corrupt and you did all these things to me, you piles of dog shit. But we're going to put it in walking distance to the DOJ building. The DOJ and the FBI have to work really closely together. A 2-minute walk to a meeting is far better than a traffic-laden 2-hour drive to Greenbelt. Having the FBI in DC is important for ending violent crime, which I will do quickly. It's important to know, again, that Congress has already approved the funding. The funding has to go to a new FBI building. He just wants to build it somewhere that is close to what would be his Department of Justice if he wins in November. This whole thing is just fucking wild. Expected them to be like, this is a classified, and for it to be classified, but that I expected that whole thing to be more of a rigmarole, like of rules and what you can take and when you can take it. I did not expect for them to have to come out, for this guy to have to come out and be like, you know what? We printed these off. We placed them. We took the photo, we sent it out, and the whole thing is fake. I was not really expecting that. I expected it to be more manipulative and complicated. God dang.
All right. Yeah, that's a little shipwreck. Okay. In the category of bad ideas. Here we go.
Today we're trying Everclear, taking a shot with no reaction.
Oh shit. He doesn't know, does he?
190 proof, 95 ABV.
Young man, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Your confidence, I applaud you for it, but you do realize that this shit is illegal in about 11 different states.
Cheers.
Wait for it. Yeah, we kind of saw that coming.
All right, you guys.
Round two, I see you haven't learned from your first mistake.
I do have more knowledge this time.
No, you don't.
You're supposed to drink it lukewarm.
Whoever told you that story was lying to you.
Also using water as a chaser.
That's not going to help. That also isn't going to help do anything except maybe help extinguish the fire you're about to feel.
Cheers.
Here we go.
I'm burning.
Yeah, you are, and that shit's gonna burn going in and coming out. I'm curious if during your research you realized that this stuff is highly flammable and it's basically rubbing alcohol, paint thinner, an industrial disinfectant, kills germs and your stomach. The equivalent of lighter fluid. When consumed straight up, shit-faced is an understatement. This stuff cleans your pipes going in both directions, causes loss of eyesight, explosive diarrhea. Your liver has been relocated, passed out in the woods, naked. Your ass is on fire. Also can lead to out-of-body experiences. This stuff takes the paint off your walls, so you can use it for paint thinner. Next time, talk to somebody older than you and ask some questions. We'll tell you the truth, because we've been there, done that, and, well, it's just poison. There's something wrong with these kids today.
I had to share that one, yep. All right. Senator Rick Scott, the lead prosecutor, was the number 3 person in the Biden Justice Department. Here we go.
Now let's look at who's involved in doing this. The lead prosecutor was the number 3 person that the Biden Justice Department. The judge's daughter is a political operative and raises money for Democrats. You've got the lead prosecutor's wife is a significant donor to Democrats, and I think to Biden. So this is just a bunch of Democrats saying, we want to make sure that Donald Trump can't talk. You know, they've got a gag order, so he can't go campaign. They've got him holed up in a courtroom. So Joe Biden go campaign, but Donald Trump can't. This has to stop. Look, we know that President Biden can't win this election fair and square. He has nothing to run on. And we know President Trump has a record. He secured the border. He had a great economy. We weren't at war. So that's why this is happening. Joe Biden knows and Democrats know that he cannot win. Joe Biden cannot win this election. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Yep. Can't win. So this is that city council member. On Tuesday, Seattle City Council candidate Tariq Youssef draped himself in Hamas keffiyeh, masked up with his Antifa comrades and assaulted our Turning Point USA Frontlines crew at the University of Washington. He also got in our face and made menacing gestures several times.
Look at this guy. Look at this chubby kid. Come on. Look at this guy. Look at this chubby kid. Come on.
Okay.
Whoa. Hey. Coming out of the tents.
Yep.
Look at this guy. Look at this.
All right. Here's President Trump before his court this morning.
Thank you very much. What Biden is doing with respect to Israel is disgraceful. If any Jewish person voted for Joe Biden, they should be ashamed of themselves. He's totally abandoned Israel, and nobody can believe it. I guess he feels good about it because he did it as a political decision. You have to do the right decision, not the political decision. But he did a very bad thing. I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case, and many good things are going on with the case. It should have been filed. They had this morning the top legal scholars in the country. This is a Frankenstein case. They took a dead misdemeanor, they attached it to a dead alleged federal felony and zapped it back into life. So many of us are just amazed to watch this actually walk into court, because it's not a recognizable crime that any of us have seen. It's Jonathan Turley. I've been doing this for 60 years and I don't understand what crime he's been charged with. Nobody understands this. I just don't get the crime. There's no evidence of any crime whatsoever. This is a sham. That's Alan Dershowitz. And these are people that they speak their minds. They're not for me, they're for justice. This is another one. This is without precedent in American history, only with the desperation of President Joe Biden and his fanatic left-wing enforcers did it become possible to think about arresting and jailing their major political opponent. This case must be taken out of Judge Merchan's hands because it's totally conflicted. Judge Merchan is totally conflicted, like probably no judge has ever been conflicted before. Here's another one, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. His prosecution of former President Donald Trump violates both the federal and state constitutions. This is a prosecutor making it up as he goes along. Due process worthy of the names does not tolerate that. So these are statements. This is Andrew McCarthy made that statement. Highly respected. A judge is allowing wide scope of information that has absolutely nothing to do with the case. That's Rebecca Rosewood on Fox News. Today we have Rick Scott here, Senator Rick Scott. We have other politicians here. We have many people in support. The outside of this building is closed down like Fort Knox. Nobody's ever seen. We have so many police down here, New York's finest, and they are New York's finest. They're just told what to do, but they don't have them at Columbia. They don't have them at NYU or any other place, like an armed camp down here. And you have nothing to worry about. Believe me, your problem is from the left, it's not from the right. Big problem from the left. It's from within our country. That's a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger danger than China or Russia. You have it from the outside and you have it from within. From within is a bigger danger to our country, and it's from the left, not from the right. But Rick Scott's here, and he said you can't go after political persecutions. This is a shame. This should not be happening in our country. And Senator Ted Cruz put out a very strong statement about attacking Donald Trump and the American voter. It's an attack on both. This is purely and simply election interference. There is no case. So that's the way it is. But here we sit after 2.5 weeks, and I think you'll see some very revealing things today. And I want to thank my lawyers. They've done a very good job, but I'd rather thank them after it's over as opposed to now, because we don't want them to get carried away. There's no case. Should have never been brought. Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring it. Cy Vance didn't want to bring it, and he didn't. He left. He didn't bring it. Everybody's looked at it. Southern District didn't bring it. Federal elections didn't bring it. It's also a federal case, not a state case, which they're not allowed to do, but these are minor details. So I just want to thank you for being here, and we'll see you later in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
What do you think of the Stormy Daniels testimony? That's a lot of about the testimony. Are you politicizing the trial?
All right, so that is former President Trump.
Oh, they're
right
asking
before
him
court,
if
he
he's
usually doesn't make comments. He
politicizing the
made
trial.
two basic comments. First of all, he started with the news of the day from the Biden announcement last night during the CNN interview that basically Israel might be on their own when it comes to needing weapons. The president here, President Trump, made a point of saying that if you're Jewish in America and you voted for Biden, you must be disappointed. He actually said you should feel ashamed of yourself. But I think what his point is that Biden is abandoning Israel in its time of need.
Yeah, funny how that works, right? Yeah. All right. Wall Street Apes. If this doesn't make you mad, nothing will.
Said, I talked to a veteran yesterday. This man's like 80-some years old. He looked me dead in my eye and said he didn't think he was going to make it out of his 20s, man. He went to Vietnam 3 times. Got his hip blew apart. They even tried to send him to Iraq. He did over 30-some years in the military. He came back, you know. He didn't cry about it. He went to work. Got off his ass and went to work. He went to the VA to go get a little help. You know what they told him? You make too much. This is one of the dudes who he fought in like one of the worst wars that America ever had. 3 separate occasions. Got his hip blew apart. Now he's 80-some years old and can't even get assistance from the government. They literally look a man in his eye and tell him no. What you think they'll do to you, man?
Yep. Yep. Leaving them behind. All right. Lisa says, you ready to guess how much we have spent on homeless veterans, visas, illegals in 2023? There we go.
Want to guess how much we've spent on homeless veterans in 23? 3 billion. 66 on illegals, 3 billion on people who have laid down their lives for this country. Can anyone explain up there why that makes sense?
And one is just looking at a very, very narrow slice.
No, I'm using the same
So if you
numbers.
look
I'm
at-
at,
if
sir,
you-
sir,
if
you
you
are,
did a
I am
direct
using
comparison,
apples
it would
to
be a
apples.
very
You know
good-
the answer because
good-
I do. I do. So I appreciate your opinion of which you have no facts on, but let me continue and let me educate you some more. Might want to get a pencil and paper and take some notes because I'll help you do your job. 5.8 billion in SNAP, 10 billion in Medicare, 8.2 billion in uncompensated hospital expenditures, 3 billion for primary and secondary education for illegal immigrants. How many illegal immigrants are given taxpayer-funded housing compared to the number of homeless veterans that are sleeping on the street? You don't know because you don't want to know. You don't want to see the numbers. Well, different. I do, and I can share with you the American people do. Yes, we care about them a little bit more than we care about people who have broken the law to get here illegally. It's a very charitable country. Why don't we take care of our own first?
Yeah, good point. All right. I got a couple from Katie Hopkins here.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain, where it's an amazing day for British families of those bereaved by the experimental vaccines that were pushed by everybody. AstraZeneca forced to admit in court that it did know there could be fatal side effects of its experimental jab, including thrombosis. Those families will now need to be compensated by the British taxpayer because the British government gave indemnity to Big Pharma, who made 19 billions in profit last year. What we can say for sure is that we'll wait for an apology from Jimmy Carr, Andrew Neil, Esther Ratson, Piers Morgan, and all the other vaccine pushers who called us names, but it turns out you guys were right all along. In other news, every single e-gate at every single British airport went down, causing queues for absolute days. No surprise to us regular travellers, because there's barely an e-gate open when you need them to be. It could have been Beijing retaliating. One thing we can say for sure is no one will ever know. Chaos reigns here in the UK. And finally, Ollie Alexander at Eurovision. It would have been jolly nice if he'd just sung a nice little song. Instead, he chose to perform gay sex on stage while dressed in a jockstrap, didn't really perform to the crowd at all, and frankly, forgot to sing. We're a very long way from Bucks Fizz, aren't we? Anyway, that's it. Batshit bonkers Britain.
Oh, she is absolutely a hoot, isn't she? Yes, she is. All right. Remember what Kash Patel says about inherent contempt of Congress?
Well,
So let's play this out. Okay, so let's just pick somebody who I'm rather upset with who harmed me, Jack Dorsey. So let's say that one of these committees, okay, let's say Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or Chip Roy or Anna Paulina, they subpoena Jack Dorsey. And Jack Dorsey is in Tahiti. And he says, forget it, I'm not going to testify. The precedent has been set, though, Cash, that you get indicted and have to face jail time. Look at Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
And even though I believe it was wrong, I think Steve Bannon had actually executive privilege here. And so there's now a precedent where they better follow these subpoenas, or else a defiance of a congressional subpoena can mean jail time. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. But here's where we have a Department of Justice that is a two-tier system of justice.
Of course, obviously, yes.
But here's the kicker.
It will be whether he makes it or not. Set to go. 3 yards. The crowd will tell you whether he makes it or not. Set to go. Snap, ball down, kick is up. Hey, how about that? What a ending to what a game. I'll tell you what, one of the great games ever played here.
And I did this during my time at Russiagate. When you have a Department of Justice that you cannot rely on to fulfill a congressional subpoena and force people who violate it, Congress actually has this thing called inherent contempt of Congress powers, which means the Speaker of the House can send the Sergeant at Arms out and go and arrest anyone that defies a congressional subpoena.
Wow.
Now, if you want to see whether these Republicans actually have backbone, that's the law.
No, hold on, slow down.
They can do
Slow
that.
down. So we got 45 seconds. I've never heard that before. So you're trying to tell me Kevin McCarthy, let's say Fauci defies a subpoena.
Yeah. He can be arrested by the Sergeant at Arms at the direction of Kevin McCarthy and held in detention.
Where?
Well, there are jail cells at the bottom of the Capitol building. People don't know that, but they're there.
You're blowing my mind, Cash. All right, more with Cash Patel after the break. You got my mind thinking here. People say they're never get arrested. We'll see.
Yep. We'll see what happens here. That's all we can do. Wonder if this would really solve it.
Wait, don't scroll. This affects every single person on Earth. So if you're seeing this, I'm guessing that includes you, right? Whether you know that the Earth is a globe, or whether you know that the Earth is flat, give me 3 minutes of your time, and you can literally change the world for the better. And if you don't care what shape it is, and you think it doesn't matter, then please hear me out. And I'll explain exactly why it does matter. Whatever evidence globers provide, flat earthers will never believe it. And whatever evidence flat earthers provide, globers will never believe it. Because we've all conditioned to be that way. It's deliberate, and I'll get to that in a minute. On the globe model, the Antarctic continent takes up a relatively small part of the globe, right at the bottom, and the coastline is at about 10,000 miles long. On the flat Earth model, obviously it's very different. The Antarctic ice wall goes all the way around the outside, encompassing every continent on Earth, and is approximately 78,000 miles long. That's quite a difference, right? So what if we could prove it for ourselves once and for all, without any one official being involved, without either side being able to call foul or that's cheating? So here's what I propose. We get half a dozen of the most famous and outspoken globers, half a dozen of the most famous and outspoken flat earthers, and we put 3 of each into 2 different aeroplanes. All right? We start them off at the same point, and those 2 aeroplanes fly off in opposite directions, following the coastline, which means they'll meet approximately halfway round on the other side. So on both models, supposing they set off from the closest point to Chile, and halfway round, they're both going to meet up somewhere around Tasmania. All right? The difference will be the distance they've traveled and how far and how long it will take them to get there. So supposing, for argument's sake, that those both planes are traveling at 500 miles an hour, then on a globe Earth model, they'll both have to cover 5,000 miles, which is about 10 hours. And on a flat Earth model, they both have to travel 39,000 miles, which is about 78 hours before they meet up. Now, that's a huge difference and a huge margin of error. Now, this is complicated slightly by the fact that allegedly there is a 90-kilometer no-fly, no-sail exclusion zone around the Antarctic coastline. So both planes would have to travel 100 kilometers from the coastline, which means obviously if it's a globe, then they'll have to travel a further distance. If it's flat, they'll have to travel less distance. But supposing that if they meet up anything less than 20 hours, the Earth is definitely a globe, right? If they meet up anything after 60 hours, the Earth is very definitely flat. Now, if you give all 12 of those passengers a live feed camera, video camera, and also maybe one in the cockpit so they can see the distance traveled as well, all right, then there's no cheating. And one side or the other at the end of this journey, when those two planes meet up, is going to have to say what seems to be the three hardest words in this modern clown world: I was wrong. Now, this won't cost a great deal of money, relatively speaking, but I would finance it in an instant if I had the money, because here's why it matters. The powers that be have got the capability to do this. They've had the capability for many, many years, and they won't do it. Why? Globers will say, because they don't need to. We all know from NASA and all the rest of that stuff. And flat earthers will say, because they know it's a lie. Okay, how do we find out the truth unless we get it done ourselves? Because the powers that be don't want everybody to know the truth. Okay, and now I'm not saying it's one reason or the other, but the point is, it's an artificial fence that keeps everybody divided. Okay, in the same way as sex, age, religion, race, gender, party politics, vax, unvaxxed, it's all artificial fences to divide the masses, divide and rule, right? Because as long as everybody's arguing with each other, then nobody's looking at who's really responsible for this shit show that we call the modern world, right? So whether it turns out to be a globe or whether it turns out to be flat, the point is we will all know. It will be the one thing that will unify the masses, all the people on Earth. And here's why it really matters. Virtually everyone will be familiar with the Star Wars films. And at the end of the first film, the all-powerful, seemingly invulnerable, invincible Death Star is destroyed by one inherent weakness, right? And it transpires later in the series that that inherent weakness, that Achilles heel, was deliberately incorporated into the design by the creator. Are you with me?
Yeah. Okay. Trump and Biden debate.
A spokesperson for the Biden administration has come out and said that Joe Biden absolutely will be debating Donald Trump.
Will he be mentioning him by name? Will the campaign be going after Trump on a regular basis to try and draw that contrast? Is that necessary?
No, I think absolutely it is, Mika. And look, President Biden has made it very clear he will be debating Donald Trump. But when you have Donald Trump's own words, it's also important to keep in mind that we will be continuing to use a paid media strategy here that uses his own words against him.
What is a paid media strategy? I know what it is. You know what it is. Just make sure when you use his own words against him that you put the context in there. You won't, but that debate's going to be incredible. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also came out and asked Donald Trump to debate. He did it on X, I think, or on a podcast, but he hasn't responded yet. So I don't, really, that's just kind of a wash for Trump. There's nothing to gain from debating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has everything to gain by debating Trump. So I don't know where strategy goes. I don't think it would be a good idea. But a Biden and Trump debate, that'd be something worth streaming. That's for sure.
Yep. Something worth streaming. All right. This is a little bit of a long one. It's Bill Cooper. Osiris, Isis, and the Occult Part 1.
The fable of Isis and Osiris, as it has descended to us in the account given by Plutarch, has not been greatly amplified by any modern research. The Egyptian fragments, which have been translated in recent years, offer no complete account of the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Osiris, nor has any new key been found to unlock this great drama, which may well be termed the Passion Play of Egypt. It is not our intention to perpetuate Plutarch's account merely for its outward appearance, but rather from the same motive that inspired Synesius, Platonic philosopher and Christian bishop, to compile his account of the same fabulous history. Synesius, in his treatise on Providence, and you hear that word a lot in the secret societies and especially in Freemasonry, thus introduces the Osirian myth. Quote, "This fable is Egyptian. The Egyptians transcend in wisdom. Perhaps, therefore, this also being a fable obscurely signifies something more than a fable, because it is Egyptian. If, however, it is not a fable, but a sacred discourse, it will deserve in a still greater degree to be told and committed to writing." Unquote. In presenting a summary of Plutarch's account, I am omitting nothing which could in any way be regarded as relevant. I am taking the liberty, however, of somewhat expanding the fable by incorporating therein some small fragments derived from other Greek writers, and occasionally a few words bearing upon the account from fragments of Egyptian religious literature. The story, then, is in substance as follows. The goddess Nut, whom Plutarch identifies with Rhea, was the daughter of Shu and Tefnut. She is the wife of Seb, also known as Saturn, and the mother of Ra, or Helios, also known as the sun. Now, if we were to trust Plutarch, she afterwards becomes the wife of Ra, or the sun. Nut is unfaithful to Ra, who, discovering that she is with child by Seb, pronounces a curse upon her that she should not be delivered of her progeny in any month or year. Thoth, which is Hermes or Mercury, who is also in love with Nut, comes to her assistance with a stratagem. He plays at tables with the moon goddess, Selene, and wins from her the 70th part of each of her illuminations. And joining these parts together, he forms of them 5 days, which he adds to the calendar. Previous to that time, the Egyptian year consisted of 360 days, the exact number of degrees in a circle. Now, these 5 days being not part of any month or year, Ra was outwitted. You see, because upon these days, Nut brought forth her 5 children at different times in different places. Upon the first of these days, she brought forth Osiris, and the place of his birth, according to Diodorus, was Mount Nisa in Arabia, the Happy. Mount Nisa is now Mount Sinai, folks. At the moment of the birth of Osiris, a voice sounded throughout the world saying, quote, "The Lord of all the earth is born," unquote. On the second day, Nut gave birth to Aroris, the elder Horus. On the third day, Typhon or Set. On the fourth day, Isis. And on the fifth and last day, Nephthys. The Egyptians, therefore, regard the 5 days, which they term the epact or superadded, as the birthdays of the gods, especially venerating the fourth of them, upon which the benevolent goddess Isis came into being. Plutarch further on announces that the 5 children of Nut were not all of the same father, thus contradicting his earlier statement. For he says that Osiris and the elder Horus were the children of Ra, that Isis was the daughter of Thoth, and only Typhon and Nephthys were actually the offspring of Seb. There is another, and even more recondite legend regarding the elder Horus, which denies him the fathership of Ra, declaring him to be the offspring of Osiris and Isis while they were still in the womb of Nut. Now, these accounts we shall consider later. Osiris was given to Hamelis to be educated, and having come to the years of majority, became the king of Egypt. In this high capacity, Osiris applied himself to the civilizing of his nation, turning the Egyptians from their previously indigent and barbarous course of life to a happy and community existence. He taught them agriculture, compiled for them a body of laws for the regulation of conduct, instructed them in the reverencing and worship of the gods, thus establishing Egypt in all the essentials of truth, according to the legend. And having brought his own nation to prosperity and enlightenment, Osiris traveled over the rest of the world, converting peoples to his disciplines, not by force, but the persuasion of reason. Osiris was accompanied on this journey by a procession of nymphs and other superphysical beings who filled the air with music and song. In the meantime, Typhon, brother or half-brother of Osiris, had ambition to usurp the throne, but the vigilant Isis, sister wife of Osiris, was too watchful. Typhon, however, having persuaded 72 other persons to join him in his conspiracy, with the aid of a certain queen in Ethiopia named Aso, perfected a plot against Osiris. He fashioned a chest exactly to the measurement of the body of Osiris, which chest he caused to be brought into the banquet hall, where the princes of Egypt were feasting their king's return. Typhon, simulating jest, promised this elaborately ornamented box to the one whose body, upon trial, most nearly fitted it. Now each of the princes in turn lay down in the box, but each was too short or too tall, until last of all Osiris himself lay down in it. Immediately the 72 conspirators rushed to the box, clamped the cover upon it, fastened it with nails, and poured melted lead over all the cracks and crevices. After this, they carried the chest to the bank of the Nile and cast it into the river where it joins the sea. Now this evil deed was executed upon the 17th day of the Egyptian month of Aphir, when the sun was in Scorpio. According to some, it was in the 28th year of the reign of Osiris, and to others in the 28th year of his life. Now try to remember these numbers. If you can't, jot them down. But these numbers will crop up again and again and again. Scorpio crops up, 17 crops up, 28 crops up, and many other numbers. And they all have significance in the mystery religion of Babylon, the secret societies, and to the guardians of the secrets of the ages. As soon as Isis received word of this crime, she cut off one of the locks of her hair and put on the mourning apparel of widowhood, for which reason the spot where she did this was afterwards called Koptos. That's Koptos, or the city of mourning. After donning the widow's weeds, Isis set forth in search of her husband's body and wandered about all Europe, wandered about all Egypt, asking all with whom she came in contact. You see, I may be back here in the United States, but a lot of my thoughts, folks, are still in Europe. Finally, some children who had been at play told Isis that they had seen the accomplices of Typhon carrying the chest to the Nile. For that reason, Egyptians regard the words of children as oracular and pay great attention to them. While Isis was searching for her husband's body, she learned that Nephthys, her sister, had by magic insinuated herself into the presence of Osiris before his death, and in the guise of Isis had conceived a son from him. Now Isis sought out the child, which Nephthys had deserted for fear of Typhon's anger, and adopting it, attached it to her person as a constant guard and attendant. This was Anubis, the dog-headed god, who appears in the Book of the Dead and in many of the Egyptian hieroglyphics. After some time, Isis learned that the chest had been carried by the sea to the coast of Byblos. Now, Byblos is also the name for book or Bible, where it had lodged in the branches of a bush of tamarisk, which had grown up miraculously about the sacred receptacle and concealed it within its trunk. Now remember this tamarisk, and remember that it is a tree. The king of Byblos, amazed at the miracle, caused the tree to be cut down, and from the trunk containing the box, he made a pillar to support the roof of his palace. Now by magic, Isis discovered this, and traveling immediately to Byblos, attached herself to the suite of the queen as a nurse to her children. At night, when all the palace was asleep, Isis transformed herself into a swallow and fluttered around the column, bemoaning her fate in strange, sad notes. In due time, Isis revealed her divine nature and asked that the pillar be cut down. Taking therefrom the chest, she departed with it into a desert place where she performed certain magical rites by which the body of Osiris was temporarily animated. And by this animation, she received from Osiris a son who is called the younger Horus, the child who was conceived of the dead. Now there's some confusion in the account at this point. Plutarch says that Isis left the body of Osiris temporarily to visit her son Horus, just mentioned, but the context of the fable would rather call for her departure to a secluded place where the child could be born without the knowledge of Typhon, who certainly would have destroyed him. Isis hid the chest in a remote and unfrequented place, but Typhon, hunting one night by the light of the moon, chanced upon it. Knowing its contents, and realizing Isis to be proficient in magic, he resolved to thwart her purposes, and tearing the body into 14 parts, he scattered them over Egypt. Now remember, 14 parts. Folks, don't forget that. From the inscriptions on the Metternich stele, it seems that Set must have imprisoned Isis and her son Horus. The goddess is made to say, quote, "I am Isis, and I came forth from the house wherein my brother Set had placed me," unquote. Thoth, the prince of law, again came to her assistance and aided Isis to escape from the house. Was it really a prison? Or was it really the house of Set? Thoth, also at this time, prophesied that Horus would sit upon the throne of his father and rule the double empire of Egypt. Upon the advice of Thoth, Isis hides the child in a papyrus swamp, thus saving him from the wrath of Set. Isis returning, having left her son at Butos, and fashioning a magical boat out of papyrus, traversed the whole of the empire. As she met with the scattered parts of her husband, she buried each one separately. First, however, encasing it in a magical mummy composed of wax, incense, and grain seed. She finally recovered all of the parts of Osiris except the phallus, or the penis, which had been thrown into the river and devoured by 3 fishes. This organ Isis reproduced in gold. Remember this also. Remember the 3 fishes, for they represent ignorance, superstition, and fear. They also represent the church, the state, and the mob. And remember that Isis reproduced this member, this organ, in gold. And having performed all of the ceremonies necessary to ensure the life of Osiris in the underworld, she returned to her son Horus, and by the theurgic arts, of which she was mistress, saved him from death, from the stings of scorpions. Horus, having grown to man's estate, and having received from his mother the tradition of his father's murder, longed to avenge the evil deed. Osiris appeared to his son in a vision, instructing him in the means by which he could overcome the hosts of Typhon. Now we are led to infer that Horus gathered about him an army which, meeting the hosts of Typhon, battled with them for many days, achieving victory. Typhon, according to the legend, was taken prisoner and turned over to the custody of Isis. Now, Isis, being his sister, could not bring herself to put him to death, but set him at liberty, which so incensed Horus that he laid hands upon his mother and removed from her head the insignia of royalty. Thereupon Thoth gave her a new helmet, made in the shape of an ox's head. Typhon next accused Horus of illegitimacy, but Thoth proves his royal descent. Typhon again goes into battle against Horus. In fact, 2 battles are mentioned, in both of which Typhon is worsted. And Horus regains the kingdom of his father and is regarded, to at least a certain degree, as the actual reincarnation of Osiris. So here you had a death and a resurrection. After its resurrection in the underworld, the shade of Osiris visits Isis, and in consequence thereof, she gives birth to another son, as it were, by a Holy Ghost, for she knew no living man. This child is called Harpocrates, and Plutarch says of him that he, quote, came into the world before his time and lame in his lower limbs, unquote. Harpocrates is usually depicted as a nude figure, his head adorned with a single curling lock of hair on the right side, this being, with the Egyptians, a symbol of youth or adolescence. He is sometimes depicted with an elaborate plumed headdress or wearing the double crown of the northern and southern empires. His finger is placed to his lips, which Plutarch interprets as a gesture symbolic of his childish and helpless state. The Greeks and Romans, however, considered this gesture to be a symbol for silence or secrecy, and from this has arisen the custom of placing the finger to the lips as a motion for quietness and secrecy, and we do it today. Statues of the god Harpocrates were placed at the entrances to temples and sacred retreats where the dramas of the mysteries were performed, as a sign that silence and secrecy should be observed in the holy places, and that all initiates were bound by vows of discretion. Harpocrates is also sometimes shown standing, and at other times he is depicted seated on the blossom of a lotus, just like Buddha. Although he is usually figured with childish immaturity of body, the imperfection of his lower limbs, as described by Plutarch, is not apparent in any of the Egyptian drawings. It therefore seems that the statements concerning this deformity should be more carefully examined. Samuel Squire, whose translation of Plutarch's Isis and Osiris, made in 1744, is still the most often quoted by Egyptologists. Well, he states definitely, quote, lame in his lower limbs. G.R.S. Mead translated the same essay much later and gives a slightly different rendering of Plutarch's words. Mr. Mead says, quote, weak in his limbs from below upwards, unquote. This difference in wording, though slight, may have an unexpected significance. You see, there's some general information contained in Synesius's Treatise on Providence that should be included in this Osirian epic. Synesius is of the opinion that Osiris should be regarded as an historical king whose father, transcending in wisdom, instructed his benevolent son in all the secrets of the divine science of government. Synesius is moved to this conclusion by a desire to keep all speculation within the sphere of the reasonable. The Platonist Bishop seems to have derived much of his account from origins foreign to Plutarch's treatise, or possibly he interpreted differently the restrictions imposed by his vows. Synesius, a prudent and conscientious author, wary of myths and fables, and exhibiting a truly Platonic conservativeness in his handling of subject matter, yet Synesius was beyond question a deeply religious philosopher and an initiate of pagan mysteries prior to his conversion to the Christian faith, and therefore may have hidden the true meaning of the fable. Thomas Taylor is of the mind that the treatise on Providence was written while Synesius was still a votary of pagan mysteries. Now, if so, The writing is unbiased and trustworthy and presents a fair picture of the mystical traditions of the Egyptians interpreted in terms of Platonic metaphysics, but only the exoteric would be allowed to be seen by the profane. Phoenicius inserts into his narrative a considerable description of the various character of Osiris, which he sharply contrasts with the vice-ridden nature of Typhon. He also explains in detail the process of election by which Osiris came to the throne of Egypt. The electional ceremony, as described by Phoenicius, is evidently itself a fragment from some secret ritual relating to the installation of a hierophant of the mysteries. Next, Osiris receives from his father an elaborate dissertation in the Platonic temper concerning the relative power of good and evil, in which he is fully warned against the machinations of Typhon. Possibly the most important sentence in Phoenicius's treatise occurs during this dissertation. The father of Osiris is made to say to his son, quote, "You also have been initiated in those mysteries in which there are two pair of eyes, and it is requisite that the pair which are beneath should be closed, when the pair that are above them perceive, and when the pair above are closed, those which are beneath should be opened," unquote. Now, these words unquestionably have an arcane meaning and are incorporated into the narrative that the true significance of the whole Osirian cycle might not be entirely obscured. And I can tell you that the meaning, folks, is that the eyes above are the exoteric meant for the outer world, for the profane, and the eyes below are the esoteric meant for the initiate, the adept, the priest of the mystery schools only. Phoenicius does not describe the death of Osiris, but merely reports his vanishment and final restoration to the throne. In the latter part of the story, there was also introduced a certain philosopher who was a stranger in Egypt. This philosopher predicts the fall of Typhon and is an eyewitness to the recrowning of Osiris. Phoenicius says of this philosopher, quote, "He likewise then learned some particulars about Osiris which would shortly happen, and others which would take place at some greater distance of time. Vis-a-vis when the boy Horus would choose as his associate in battle a wolf instead of a lion. But who the wolf is a sacred narration, which it is not holy to divulge even in the form of a fable," unquote. Well, the lion, we know, has always been of the tribe of Judah. Such is the amazing tradition of the good king Osiris, the first victim, the first mummy, and the first resurrection. He dies and is born again in three forms. First, as god of the underworld, where he rules the justified dead. Second, as the younger Horus, in whose form he battles for his own honor. And third, as Harpocrates, the silent child. The latter two forms are regarded as incarnations or embodiments of his very self, yet he exists independent of them as the judge of shades and the lord of the resurrection. Now we know that Osiris was also known as the sun, and Horus was known as the child, or the young Osiris, the young Horus, the baby Horus. So after the sun set in the west, when it rose the next morning, it rose as the young Horus, and as it went across the sky, it became Osiris and then the elder. But in the legends, it's differently at different times Osiris or Horus. Horus the younger, Horus at his peak strength at noon, and Horus the elder. It is also Osiris. So you see that these figures intermingle in the legend, but it all has meaning, and it will all be clear to you at a later time. Now, just because you don't understand some of this, and you may be a little lost, don't worry, it will come together. Don't miss one single word of this series of episodes of the Hour of the Time. If you do, I can guarantee you will regret it for the rest of your life. Nearly all writers attempting an interpretation of the Osirian cycle have recourse to Plutarch. It has seemingly never occurred to Egyptologists that this eminent priest of Delphi might have purposely confused or distorted the fable, or, if not that, might certainly have misdirected the attention of the reader from relevant to irrelevant explanations. Two factors must certainly be taken into consideration when reading Plutarch. First, he was an initiated priest of the mysteries. Of this there can be no doubt. For he himself says, quote, "For the mystic symbols are well known to us who belong to the brotherhood," unquote. In those days it was known as the Brotherhood of the Snake, and those who possessed the knowledge of the secrets of the ages wore the symbol of the snake on their headdress. And in the Egyptian hieroglyphics, you can see the members of the mystery religion of Babylon in the hieroglyphics as they wore the snake on the front of their forehead. It should be evident to everybody that as an initiate, Plutarch would not have unveiled the secret meaning of the Osirian myth, and I've found that to be absolutely true. No man of his priestly station or philosophic mind who so greatly venerated the gods as to attach himself to their service would have been guilty of the impiety of profaning their mysteries, and he would not have violated his oath of secrecy. Furthermore, had his treatise actually exposed any of the secrets of the rites, he would most probably have perished miserably, or at least been publicly disgraced. These evils not descending upon him, we must suppose that his book was regarded as harmless, and for our purpose, therefore, at least not directly informative. The second factor which gravitates against the likelihood of Plutarch's interpretations being correct is the condition of Egyptian metaphysics in the 1st century after Christ. If, as Budge maintains, the Egyptians themselves were unaware of the meaning of the word Osiris long prior to the Christian era, into what decay had the old rites fallen even prior to the Ptolemaic period? Now, Pluto based his accounts upon popular traditions. They were most certainly inaccurate, and it is not impossible that even the priests themselves were for the most part ignorant of the origins of their doctrine. It should not be inferred, folks, from the general literature available concerning this Osirian cycle and the mysteries that all of the priests were themselves initiates of a high order. Only a small part of them ever actually received the greater secrets of their order. For the rest, rite and ritual suffered. And it's the same today. Democritus spent a great part of his life in Egypt, and from the priests of that nation, he secured the foundation for his celebrated doctrine of atoms. That's right, folks, atoms, A-T-O-M-S. A doctrine which has survived as a scientific fact to this day. From all these different philosophers who visited Egypt, we shall secure a better estimation of the profundity of Egyptian learning than from even the Egyptian writings themselves. Plato went to Egypt and was initiated into the mysteries in the Great Pyramid, where he lay for 3 days and 3 nights in the sarcophagus, during which he was imparted knowledge which he was to guard, protect. He describes his initiation in his writings. I suggest that you read it. If we can assume the pragmatic viewpoint that the substance of matter is to be determined from its consequences, then we must indeed highly reverence the wisdom of the Egyptians. For it seems that first among the consequences of that wisdom is civilization itself. That cannot be doubted. Civilization is no fable, nor is it a progeny of myths, but that which is real and substantial. And it bears witness to a profound and superior wisdom, which must have existed over a great period of time, and have been communicated to at least a privileged few since the very beginning of man's cultural impulse. And we can also take the example of Pythagoras, the great philosopher. While a youth, if we may credit Iamblichus, associated himself with Thales of Miletus, from whom he gained a considerable knowledge of the mysteries. Thales, being at that time of great age and infirm body, apologized for his incomplete understanding of the sacred doctrines and urged Pythagoras to visit Egypt, the motherland of wisdom, as it was called in those days. Iamblichus wrote that Thales confessed that his own reputation for wisdom was derived from the instruction of these priests, but that he was neither naturally nor by exercise endued with those excellent prerogatives which were so visibly displayed in the person of Pythagoras. Thales therefore gladly announced to Pythagoras, from all these circumstances, that he would become the wisest and most divine of all men if he associated with these Egyptian priests. Iamblichus then describes the journey which Pythagoras made to Egypt, how en route he was initiated into the mysteries of several nations, and at last, arriving at his destination, was received by the Egyptian priests with respect and affection. He associated with the Egyptian philosophers for some time, and after demonstrating by his sincerity and consecration that he was worthy to associate with the initiated, he was at last admitted into the secrets of their orders. Quote, he spent, therefore, observes Iamblichus, 22 years in Egypt, and the adyta of temples, astronomizing and geometrizing, and was initiated, not in a superficial or casual manner, in all the mysteries of the gods. Pythagoras must be acknowledged among the first of those divine men to whom the race is indebted for the principles of science, art, and philosophy. And are we to presume that so noble an intellect could have spent 22 years pursuing fabulous shadows in Egyptian crypts? If, as some have asserted, Osiris signified merely the Nile, and Isis the black earth rendered fertile by its inundation, could such a fable have so greatly stimulated the admiration of Pythagoras that he would have spent a score of years in the assimilation of the idea? I don't think so. Or again, would he have spent this great length of time, the very best years of his life, in memorizing the myth-encrusted history of an ancient king who at some remote period had reigned in Egypt and whose memory seemed sufficient to inspire a vast civilization for some 6,000 years? By the way, that's the exact number of years in the calendar of the Mystery School and of the Freemasons. Or would he approach the matter from another of these explanations? Would Pythagoras have pounded himself for a score of years against the walls of Memphis and find himself fully rewarded by being informed with bated breath by some archimagus that Isis is the dog star? I think not. It's not impossible that in the course of its long and illustrious history, folks, Egypt devised many opinions relative to her sacred myths, but no such explanation has involved Egypt alone. Her histories, her heroes, or her agricultural problems could have caused illustrious men from all parts of the world to have visited her in quest of essential wisdom, the central core of which is the myth of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, known as the Osirian cycle. The Nile meant nothing to the Greeks, who cared little whether it rose or fell. The sneezing you hear in the background is my dog, Sugar Bear, who always accompanies me into the studio to do these programs. The Umbos of Delphi was the center of their universe in Greece, and local fables derived from Egypt's 42 gnomes could never have won for the double empire its illustrious reputation as patron of all learning, human and divine. So we must look deeper. And look deeper we did, folks. And what we found is amazing. For we found that Osiris and Isis and Horus were not ever meant to be, nor were they ever real people or real gods or spacemen who came from some other world. Not at all. As we have found in our research, and as I have found in my over 20 some odd years of research into the mystery schools, they are like all the other symbols of the mystery religion. For the public, for the profane, they are the exoteric, and you may make of them what you wish. The adepts, the initiates, the priests, they don't care what interpretation you give the exoteric meaning. And the esoteric is so entirely different from what you may suspect that the answer will surprise you. You see, we cannot be deceived by the obvious, and you can never be deceived by the obvious, or even consider the obvious when looking at any of the mystery religions or the secret doctrine. And we cannot allow ourselves to be misdirected by the evident subterfuges, the deceptions of these ancient priests, who so carefully concealed their arcana from the uninitiated world that we, at this late time, may even doubt its existence. Yet now, today, it is thriving to the point that it controls all levels of our society, military, and government. The ignorant, the sheeple, even among the Egyptians, might derive their inspiration from the processionals and rituals of the state religion, but that's just for the sheeple. For those great philosophers who came from afar were in search of the highest form of human knowledge, the ancient arts, the secrets of the ages, and could not be satisfied by such outer show. Had these fables been but hollow and unsubstantial forms, Egypt would have been the ridicule of the wise, who would speedily have exposed her sham and reduced her vain pretense to a humble state. But this did not occur. You see, the initiates of her mysteries, returning to their own countries, not only felt themselves more than repaid for their hazardous journeys and long vigils, but furthermore, they became founders of distinguished systems of thinking, disseminators of useful knowledge, and in all cases bore witness to a broad and deep learning, and they always took with them a plan for the unfoldment of a world utopian government, which plan still exists today and is still being carried out in secret as the completion of the great work. Diodorus describes two famous columns erected near Nysa in Arabia, one to Isis and the other to Osiris. Now remember, Osiris and Isis never lived, they were not real people, and they were never gods. They are symbols for something much deeper. So when you listen to the interpretation of the inscriptions on the columns, remember that. The column to Isis bears this inscription, quote, "I am Isis, queen of this country. I was instructed by Mercury. No one can destroy the laws which I have established. I am the eldest daughter of Saturn, the most ancient of gods. I am the wife and sister of Osiris the king. I first made known to mortals the use of wheat. I am the mother of Horus the king. In my honor was the city of Bubastis built. Rejoice, O Egypt, rejoice, land that gave me birth," unquote. The column to Osiris bore these words, quote, "I am Osiris the king, who led my armies into all parts of the world, to the most thickly inhabited countries of India, the north, the Danube, and the ocean. I am the eldest son of Saturn. I was born of a brilliant and magnificent egg, and my substance is of the same nature as that which composes light. There is no place in the universe where I have not appeared, to bestow my benefits and make known my discoveries," unquote. And the rest of the inscription, of course, was destroyed. Now, while the inscription on the pillar, or the obelisk in honor of Isis, may be veiled, the inscription on the obelisk dedicated to Osiris is certainly not. He was born of a brilliant and magnificent egg, and his substance is of the same nature of that which composes light. There is no place in the universe where I have not appeared. Osiris, of course, was the sun. In examining Plutarch's treatise, the introductory remarks appear of special significance. Yet, folks, these remarks are wholly ignored by Egyptologists who are content to confine themselves entirely to the fable which constitutes the larger part of the writing. If Plutarch, by any word or symbol, reveals even a small part of the sacred mystery, it is to be found in the following words, quote, "For Isis, according to the Greek interpretation of the word, signifies knowledge, as does the name of her professed adversary, Typhon, signify insolence and pride. A name, therefore, extremely well adapted to one who, full of ignorance and error, tears in pieces and conceals that holy doctrine, which the goddess collects, compiles, and delivers to those who aspire after the most perfect participation of the divine nature." Now, if you have a keen intellect, you can all decipher everything else that I'm going to tell you on this program and probably the next one in that short paragraph. And I'll let you ponder that as I continue. Osiris, the black god of the Nile, must be regarded as the personification of an order of learning, for Plutarch identifies him beyond question with the holy doctrine or the mystery tradition. Now remember, I told you Osiris is the symbol of the sun, but the sun was the symbol of the power of the all-encompassing God of the universe. And later you're going to learn that the light or the sun represents something even deeper. It represents, dear listeners, primordial knowing, the gift of intellect. And where people can read these myths and think that these people really worship the sun or some god somewhere, they are mistaken. For the true object of their worship is the intellect. And through the use of that intellect, they believe that man will become God. As Thoth personifies the whole sphere of knowledge, and it was through his assistance that Osiris came into being, so Osiris embodies the secret and sacred wisdom reserved for those who were proficient in the ancient rites. Unquestionably, Osiris was later confused with other members of that vast pantheon of divinities which developed in the decadent period of Egyptian religious culture. But to the elect, the initiate, the adept, the priest, he represented to the end primordial knowing, that utter realization of truth, undefiled by intellection, unlimited by any mortal procedure, uncircumscribed by the limitation of thinking. You see, he signified not only that divine at-one-ment with the absolute, which is the end of all illumination, but by his life, death, and resurrection revealed the means by which mortal consciousness could achieve that end. Now remember, at-one-ment. Thus Osiris becomes a dual symbol, being in the first place the esoteric wisdom. Esoteric, folks, means hidden. So he represented in the first place the esoteric wisdom itself, and in the second place the composite order of initiates through whom that tradition was perpetuated. And now we begin to strip the veil from the mysteries. The personality of Osiris thus typifies the institution erected by the ancients to perpetuate the deathless truths of the soul. The living head was crowned with the plumes of wisdom and power. The hands bore the scepters of the three worlds, but the body was bound with the mummy wrappings of the dead. Here we find spirit, the living head, bound incongruously to matter, the mummified body. The soul was imprisoned in the narrow bonds of flesh. Now, one thing through my research is certain. Osiris represented the secret doctrine prior to that time when the omnific word, or the lost word, of Freemasonry was lost. Osiris is the first of the 5 children of Nut, and here you begin to part some more veils behind which the mystery resides. He therefore corresponds with the first of the 5 divine kings of China and the 5 exoterically known Dhyana Buddhas of Lamaism. The 5 children of Nut are the 5 continents which have appeared upon the earth and the 5 races which have populated these continents. Osiris is the primitive revelation of the first race. But as Isis was born upon the 4th day, we find this tradition coming into Egypt through the Atlantean mystery school, of which Isis is the symbol, and you will find at the base of all of these things Atlantis. Francis Bacon wrote about Atlantis. Hitler believed in Atlantis. In this country, the Freemasons established the city of Atlanta as the new Atlantis. And all of this will come together for you. It took me many, many, many years of study deep into the night and trying to discuss this with other people who had no idea what I was talking about. So most of it was put together in loneliness late at night. And then when I established my organization known as the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence, many others began to help and furnish bits and pieces of information. And we have succeeded, folks, in infiltrating the lodge. We have members in the lodge who feed us information constantly. Members whom we taught how to take an oath so that the oath of Freemasonry would not be binding upon them. You have to play sometimes by the rules of the enemy in order to beat the enemy. And we are beating the enemy now. From the reign of Osiris, we glean the following philosophical history. They believed that there was a time, the Golden Age, when truth and wisdom ruled the earth, and this aristocracy of wisdom was a benevolent despotism, and that's what they want to reestablish. Benevolent to who? That's the question. In which men were led to a nobler state of being by the firm, kindly hand of the enlightened sage. This was the divine dynasty of the mythological priest kings who were qualified to govern humanity by virtue, not only temporal, but by divine attributes. Through his priests, Osiris, representative of the hidden tradition, ruled the entire world by virtue of the perfection resident in that tradition. Don't miss tomorrow night, folks. You have not even begun your journey. Good night, and God bless each and every one of you.
All right. Isis and Osiris. Nice to have a full history instead of just, the description of Horus, So at this point here, I'm going to call it, guys. I'm tired. I need to lay back down. And I will be back with you guys again tomorrow. All right. God loves you. Jesus loves you. I love you. Peace.